Oh my goodness, I think this is the most amount of people I've ever actually have in like the beginning of a stream. How's it going, guys? It's Zimzilla and foul take indeed. Never like this. Uh and actually, yes, Toku, I will actually be going over both this video, and I thought why not also do Adam does movies video as well, because I think enough time has passed, and clearly Adam had no interest in actually debating on the topic. He just kind of wanted the clout for being like, oh, these fans are coming after me for speaking my truth, and then had 2 live streams about it, and then just sort of dropped the whole thing. And yeah, that's I will be doing Adam's video later if I feel like we have time to, or I'll just make it its own video, like actual video instead of a live stream. But how's it going, guys? I also have a cold at the moment, so if I sound a little weird, it's literally just because of that. So expect a lot of me just drinking water in between takes or just downing cough drops like a madman. So, ayo, schmo. But yeah, it's good to see a lot of you guys. Some people I haven't seen before, Ian Green. I don't think I've seen you before, or non-user. Max Weiss in the chat. Alice, hello, hello, hello. And then Kaiju Not. That is patently false. That is false. That is a lie. The talk of 98 is extremely exaggerated. It is not the best ever. I can't do it as much as I can't do it as well as a Tyrant can. And we got the Brandine. And we also got Sea Monster Essays. New one in the chat saying hello, hello. So yeah, this is gonna be fun. And actually, I'm gonna share the screen. We're gonna go streamception for just a little bit because this is actually gonna be really fun. Because it's weird. Because not only was it not only did this guy also like he got a video done. And there's a streamception. Not only had his video occurred, but there was also at least 2 videos. 1 8 minutes, 1 13 minutes. Probably go over that one, the 8-minute one first afterwards. So let me just change those there. So it's gonna be him. Mr. Supermando Live will be the first to we'll discuss after we'll do Skipper's video. So yeah, this is gonna be it's gonna be interesting. So like when it comes to content, I never really watched Skipper's stuff. None of this is anything I would say I necessarily would watch to it. Like some of it maybe feels like autoplayed into like why Jurassic Park is iconic. Halo, like Combat Evolve, I'm a big Halo fan, so probably some of these I just wouldn't. But yeah, short amount of not too many videos, but like very big growth. Good for him. Like he's done a good job and all that. But clearly it's the Godzilla video that has not done the fun thing here. And since I am streamceptioning myself, I won't really be able to look at chat as much as I'd want to. So I'm actually going to be using probably my phone to look at anything chat wise, or I'll have to just stop the stream. So yeah, stop the stream and then restart it. But let's begin. This is going to be a lot of fun, and I cannot wait. And let's make sure the volume's okay. And yeah, normal speed.
I could swallow up, bottle up, I'll pull up, feel like Godzilla. Get out the way, Eminem! This is my video! Gojira, also known as Godzilla, is the most popular piece of Japanese media ever created. Let's just pretend anime is not a thing, okay, for like 20 minutes. Godzilla is so popular that a lot of people didn't even know that it originated in Japan.
I'm really, like, I already know the bad thing's gonna happen after this, but I think almost everyone knows Godzilla's from Japan. I would be very hard-pressed to find anyone who believes otherwise, and I just realized I still have the C Animus thing right there. But it's neither here nor there.
Or that it's in the public domain in the United States.
No, it's not. It's not in the public domain. This is, I think, where everyone just sort of tuned off because he said it was in the public domain. But I'm super curious if anyone can find a link or like any site that says Godzilla is in the public domain. Please tell me. I know I did make the Gigantus video where technically the name for the character isn't copyrighted under the name Gigantus, but I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that Godzilla is in the public domain in America. And there was also the whole thing with Godzilla versus Megalon, where Mysterious Science Theater thought that was in the public domain. Like that's just bad. That's really bad.
Toho, the company that created Godzilla, never expected the freak lizard to get Marvelized one day. So they didn't renew and manipulate the copyright system like a certain company that does with all their beloved IPs.
Walt Disney?
Breaking news.
So they're not wrong in the sense where Toho, I don't think even in Japanese copyright never like tried to manipulate the copyright system. I know Disney did, and yeah, that's kind of why Steamboat Willie finally ended up in the public domain. But yeah, there's documented cases of Disney extending like the stipulations for copyright specifically to keep stuff about Mickey Mouse out of the public domain. But I'm not sure why a Japanese company would be lobbying US copyright to keep Godzilla out of the public domain, which it's not. It's so stupid.
Mickey Mouse is now public domain. Oh wait, never mind, just Steamboat Willie. Not even that. The name is still claimed by Disney, so the only legal way to name it is Boat Rat Drives Boat. But this free copyright for Godzilla is only in America. In Japan, our boy is still in shackles. But even in the United States, with freedom,
wow. This is the second time I'm actually looking over the video again, and I think he's under the assumption that Legendary was just able to do Godzilla movies because Godzilla's in the public domain, which if you think about it, why would there be so few like Godzilla things if Godzilla was in the public domain? And I think that's what he's going on the assumption of when it comes to Legendary.
Hot dogs, gunslinging, and that one place.
Have you ever been to Ohio, sir?
No.
Japan still tried to sue the red, white, and blue because, well, you missed the shots you don't take, Luka Doncic. I'm not Japanese, and I was born in 2002. The same year Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla came out, alongside Mike's new car. Does this have anything to do with Godzilla? No, it doesn't, but I'm keeping it in the video anyway. So yeah, I didn't really know anything about Godzilla for most of my life other than its influence on American culture. I knew more about Reptar and Shelly from Frankenweenie than the real Godzilla. But then in 2014, when I was 12 playing, I don't know, GTA 5?
Oh, my N-word, huh?
The first Americanized version of Godzilla came out.
Oh yeah, I forget.
Yes, the first, because 1998 never happened.
Okay, so first off, as the definitive 98 hater on this channel and on this site and in this universe, do not invoke 98 hate if you actually care, if you don't care. So that just goes without saying. I understand, haha, 98 bad, we don't talk about it. Like, if you don't actually care about 98 being good or bad, don't do it. It's not a good look. It just feels like you're hopping on the quote unquote bandwagon because you've heard people say they don't like the film. Just give your actual thoughts on it, whether it's good or bad. But being like, we don't talk about 98. We already know you don't really care too much about Godzilla, so that comes across as hollow.
Jesus Christ. Fast forward to now, 2024. Japan has released a new Godzilla film starring Eminem's hit album, Kamikaze.
Zombie brains make for bad sushi.
And in the States, Godzilla is now collaborating with King Kong in what looks to be a brand new Fortnite event, which isn't that much of a stretch since they were in Call of Duty, for some reason.
So if Godzilla was in Call of Duty, you think that Godzilla probably wasn't in the public domain if they're using the exact same Godzilla design from a major blockbuster? Almost feels like this person has no idea what they're talking about.
I know 2024 just started, and we haven't had a Skipper video in a while since he was rotting away during the holidays. New year, new me, all right? We're back. Don't all clap at once. Well, let's go back to 2014 to examine the playing field and how we got here. Godzilla is super interesting to me. After the 2014 movie, I grew up and went to school and played video games and doodled in map books that cost a lot of money, but I didn't care because look at this drawing. homie. But then at age 16, I was activated like the Winter Soldier to hate the 9-to-5 matrix. Look, Mom, being a brain surgeon is cool and whatever, but I want to pursue the arts, aka the epilogue to what is eventually going to be homelessness. Or a bullet to my head. So I did a film study course in high school where the teacher was the head football coach that hated his damn life. So instead of teaching anything, he put on crash course videos from YouTube where Lily Gladstone from Killers of the Flower Moon taught me film history. Thank you, Lily, for sending me down a warpath with Letterboxd. Eventually, I started learning stuff for myself in film history, okay? I was hitting the books. Books being video essays from other idiot film geeks online. Thus, I went down in a really big Godzilla rabbit hole. And it gave me a big appreciation for the creature, its impact on filmmaking, and made me reevaluate how I look at the Godzilla brand as a whole. Also,
I think honestly, if he got all of his information from film essayists and probably the film essayists who did like one Godzilla video because it's Godzilla and you have to do at least one, then that probably explains why he had such a poor understanding of the character to this day. But it is neither here nor there.
there's a big thing I need to address in this video. I kind of hate Godzilla, if we're gonna be honest.
Get the f out, man!
I mean, yeah, good.
To make this really easy for you to understand,
Yep, there we go. So, if you hate Godzilla, then why did you even do a video on it? I don't understand. It's almost like you're shilling for money because -1's a big hit and the grift for YouTube views is real, but let's just back up just a little bit. There we go.
Get the f out, man!
to make this really easy for you to understand, Godzilla has what I like to call the Jurassic Park effect. Jurassic Park is a great movie that has cool dinosaurs and sexy Jeff Goldblum, but the film still has heavy messaging.
Dodson! Dodson! We've got Dodson here! Nobody cares.
It's a critique on corporations and Walt Disney-like figures that try to play God on the grounds of greed. They also like to suspend my Twitter account for impersonating
That's a really poor take on Jurassic Park as well, but this isn't a video about Jurassic Park, but let's let him go with it.
Harrison Ford, which I didn't do. Totally.
Answer me, you black son of a bitch!
The Raptors and T-Rex are awesome, this is very true, but they aren't just there for the sake of existing. The dinosaurs have a bigger purpose to the overall film, thus making Jurassic Park still iconic to this day. It also kind of revolutionized CGI and changed the landscape of film, yada yada, but Jurassic Park, yeah, the IP is now just CGI wars with Chris Pratt. I don't know what the hell a carbine rifle's gonna do to dinosaurs. I mean, Mark Wahlberg used a gun to fight metal aliens. I gotta give up. And while still making a lot of money.
It's actually kind of funny because you could probably take out most dinosaurs with handheld weapons, but that's a whole another rabbit hole. And I would love to do that if I ever did a video on like what would happen if you had realistic dinosaurs in a dinosaur movie. But yeah, the Jurassic World films are and a lot of them didn't have the people directly involved with the original production of Jurassic Park involved in them the same way. Plus, they didn't have source material anymore to adapt, essentially. So it makes sense where they went. But no, Godzilla is not the same in this sense because, of course, we still had a lot of the same directors working on Godzilla movies and still implanting a lot of messages into these films. And that's not even to say that, oh, Godzilla films are political, because I think that's a reductive and stupid take in itself. But I do think that a lot of the Godzilla movies people will just say, oh, it doesn't matter. Do have a lot more to say than people give them credit for.
Money, because they sure as hell did that. They have like no cultural impact at all. This is what happened with
It's actually really, wait.
Godzilla. I don't have any hell did that. They have like no cultural impact at all. This is what happened with Godzilla.
So outside of the original movie, King Kong versus Godzilla, which he'll use video of to slander Godzilla, had a huge cultural impact. So did Invasion of Astro Monster, and so did Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, Mothra versus Godzilla. It's really stupid. EFAP talked about Jurassic Park and how movies since devolved into Dominion. Yeah, EFAP did do a pretty good job on that.
I don't have any nostalgia for the old Godzilla movies. Yeah, I still watched them a bit when I was a kid.
The fuck?
And even rewatched them recently when I got the idea for this video. So no bias. 98% of them suck ass. Godzilla fell into the same trap that all successful franchises eventually fall into. Godzilla's look was more fascinating to shareholders and executives than the original intentions and creation.
So
Godzilla's look
it's really funny that he's using Ultima here, which sure, the evolutions for Ultima were probably done specifically to cash in on the success that Shin did, but clearly with -1, you only get 2 designs. You don't have, and you don't even actually get to see that evolution there. So clearly, it wasn't a matter of designs. Plus, not to mention, Godzilla's design kept changing from film to film. They didn't make a huge deal out of it, so they weren't trying to bank on, oh, Godzilla's got a new look and he's gonna fight a new monster. Especially when like a lot of the older films would have Godzilla fighting the new monster with the design they originally had. I say this as I'm looking up at the Mothra versus Godzilla poster, and you can see that they actually have the 1962 Godzilla design fighting Mothra there. So it wasn't just about like having the new design, and they all had like obviously they wanted to make money, but it clearly wasn't just about, oh, Godzilla, new look, new movie, haha.
was more fascinating to shareholders and executives than the original intentions and creativity that made him even exist in the first place. So they spammed out Godzilla films.
Wait, no, let's stop there.
Original intentions.
Actually, I just realized I'm gonna have to slow this down real quick for this point.
Activity that made him even exist in the first place. So they spammed out Godzilla films.
So as you do this right here, they spammed out Godzilla films. Yes, they truly spammed out Godzilla films between those points, and then
he's fighting.
Yeah, they don't show even Biolante in '84 had a pretty good distance between them, and I want to go back. Take me back.
Even exists in the first place. So they
and then 54, 55. Okay, not including King of Monsters because that was American. 55 to 62. Yes, they really churned them out at this point, and it wasn't like at this point here. And it's really just the Showa era, and then you see it with, and yes, there are points where you see Godzilla had a film every single year, but there's no like actual understanding as to why those films are getting churned out year after year, or why certain decisions were made in this case.
They spammed out Godzilla films.
And also, it's actually kind of ironic that he stops even before he gets to Biolante, because he doesn't really mention 84, just shows it in a few clips. And then, none, like the Millennium series, this is as much as the Millennium series will get talked about. And even then, this isn't even really about this movie at all.
He's fighting bugs. He's fighting mechanized versions of himself. He's fighting...
Those are 2 different movies.
3-headed dragons. He's doing shit like this. Because why the hell not? And some of the films are fun, I'll admit it, but for the most part, a lot of the legacy of Godzilla just reeks of cheaply made cash grabs. So when Godzilla...
It's really, I think honestly, this is somewhat of the people who are in the fandom will be like, oh, they're all cheaply made cash grabs. But like, if someone else says that, who isn't like a fan or in the community, everyone gets up in arms about it. And I'd say that that's actually a fault of the fandom itself for perpetuating something that other people will hear, and that ends up being something that's spread around. Like, there were reasons why certain Godzilla films just did not have the budget they needed, and a lot of them were not cheap affairs, especially like the Heisei films. I think 84 for its time was the most expensive sci-fi film, not to mention they put a lot of money into 54 as well. And then, yeah, cash grabs and cash-ins are Tismic buzzwords. Yeah, that's just a lot of tism, like huge tism.
Turned into our cartoon for kids, a lot of adults stopped caring.
What is this shit?
So then the cycle reset, and this time Goji went to America, where the...
Wait. Wait, you're saying...
What is this shit?
So then the cycle reset.
We stopped at Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla and then went all the way to 2014. Because if that's the case, if that's really how things went, then man, they really sure pumped out Godzilla films between 1974 and 2014. Yeah, it really does feel like all he wants to talk about is actually just the Showa films. Didn't really watch the Heisei films, probably because he wasn't able to. Had no way of knowing like what to do with the Millennium films, and just ignored those.
Time Goji went to America, where the same thing happened again. We got a serious Godzilla, and people complained that it was too serious with not enough Godzilla, so the franchise became Looney Tunes. And
no, people didn't complain that it was too serious. People complained mostly that the characters weren't interesting and that there wasn't enough Godzilla.
The sequel somehow had worse human characters, and then people got annoyed with Millie Bobby Brown, the fat kid from Deadpool, and Alfred from Atlanta spilling water on a computer to fry Mechagodzilla's motherboard to save the day. And this made some people not really like Godzilla that much anymore. And now Japan has gone back to
And really does, and it almost feels like he combined King of the Monsters and GVK into 2 films.
reset that cycle, and from ground zero we got a breath of fresh air again. So yeah, Godzilla is in a constant battle of balance between being really serious and being really stupid, but
That right there, that
the good is really good. So let's talk about that good. Really serious and being really stupid, but
the fact that he uses this clip here from that movie, that is like the worst thing that you could possibly do. Like, why would you just show a clip of Godzilla falling down and hitting a building after he gets essentially killed as being silly? Like, there's so many other scenes from the Godzilla series you could have done. You could have easily done the dance again, or the Godzilla versus Mothra larvae. Godzilla get his tail bit, the body slam, which you already used. More stuff from Godzilla's Revenge, or from Godzilla versus Hedorah. I feel like this was the worst thing that you could have done for your example here.
good is really good, so let's talk about that good. It's 1925. Some dude named Harry Hoyt made a stop-motion dinosaur movie called The Lost World. Not the one with sexy Jeff Goldblum and people getting smoked in tall grass, but rather stop-motion clay. Which leads us to 1933, where Harry inspired a guy named Willis O'Brien to make a stop-motion movie titled King Kong.
No, I was Marion C. Cooper, and he was not inspired by Harry Hoyt. Cooper had his own idea and used O'Brien, who had also worked on The Lost World, to make King Kong. So even in a Godzilla video, you don't get your King Kong information correct. No, you're right there, Sea Monster. Like, there's so many things that you could have used for silly. Like, I don't care much about it. Like, the jokes are fine. It's just like, wow, so much of the video has just a lot of misinformation.
That had a giant monkey going apeshit. This then inspired a Japanese special effects director named Eiji Tsuburaya, who ended up being the co-creator of Godzilla, which means America was 2001's Jay-Z the blueprint to Japan. Eiji Tsuburaya was making movies until he met this guy named Ishiro Honda.
And there was nothing about the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms at all? No? Okay. Brain rot editing. I don't mind the editing. The editing is just that peak zoomer editing, and it gets you views. But, like, yeah, it's not me. I like it. Like, I'll laugh to it. But, like, at least have the information right. If the information's right and you're able to do something funny like this, then it works really well. But in this case, it looks really stupid.
And they both said, yo, what's up? You like movies? I like movies. But then the world started going beast mode. And then boom! Imperial Japan started going beast mode. And then ring ring! Yeah, Honda, congratulations. You just been drafted to the Imperial Japanese Army. Pack your stuff, we go at midnight. And during this war, a massive toll was taken on young Honda. Then Honda came home, instantly went back to the grind and started making some movies. World War II was still going beast mode, so filmmakers had to stop making movies and instead were cranking out good old-fashioned propaganda. In the States, even Walt and Boat Rat Drives Boat were doing this as well. A Japan studio formed for this propaganda named Toho Studios that was showing all the cool tanks and guns. Look, they even put Call of Duty's World at War menu theme on the screen. The Mustache Man was going crazy in World War II as well, affecting the Lego Man that you can learn about in this video after you finish this one. Harrison Ford was still fighting Nazis, but this time on a train with a full CGI face. And Japan attacked Hawaii. Not just Hawaii, but Pearl Harbor. Japan was hyped. They threw a little party even, thinking that they just did something crazy. Then Toho Studios made a fake propaganda film about the bombing that looked so real it even convinced the USA that it was real footage. America wasn't having it. Chester, call in the big guns. Ring ring, yeah, hello Robert J. Oppenheimer. You're needed immediately. He then smoked his little pipe, put on his little hat, and played a game of telephone with his communist friends. Allegedly. Allegedly. He got tasked to make a big bomb codenamed Operation Manhattan. He then went to Los Alamos, New Mexico to cook. But somehow the guy who cooks in New Mexico got called Heisenberg instead of Oppenheimer. Heisenberg was a Nazi scientist in Germany, by the way. What the fuck, AMC? And in between adultery and literally being me, he finished the bomb, took it to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and turned that bitch into Fallout 3, with the only sole survivor being Wolverine. Japan took the L and surrendered. Truman kicked up his feet and ate sushi off his stomach like me after editing 30 seconds of this video. And Japan was now under new management. In 1946, Honda came back to Japan to see that Hiroshima was decimated, and then went back to making movies. America had control over Japan, and said no more propaganda, no more emperor, and worst of all, women can now vote. All right, who put that in the script? Was it you? Don't fucking lie to me. 1953, no more strict laws about propaganda. Happy, happy Japan. 1954.
It's like kind of, again, I forget who it was who said it in the comments where they hate the editing. Yeah, this editing style, I like it. It kind of makes you laugh to a degree, but it's just everything else that's supposed to be informative is so wrong that it does sour the editing for me.
America started trolling and the fuck does that mean? America started trolling and did a nuclear test on their hydrogen bomb in the Pacific. The bomb was much bigger than the scientists expected, so the radiation caught up to a Japanese boat named the Lucky Dragon No. 5, which killed all the crew via radiation. And the fish market was completely fucked. Poor Japan, we know you love ethical fishing. We know you love ethical fishing. Yeah, Japan was pissed, and rightfully so. And this controversy pushed Toho producer Tomoyaki Tanaka to want to make a political film related to nuclear war. Like King Kong, America was once again the blueprint, with The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, about a monster attacking New York after nuclear testing. Tanaka wanted to do the same thing, so Godzilla was made.
I get that now he mentions it here, but it almost feels like he's ignoring the information earlier, but that's also just essentially a product of the editing style he wants to use, which I'll grant it to him. I'll take back what I said where he doesn't mention it there. So sure, fine.
There's a good video by Big Action Bill about the history of 1954 Godzilla in the description. Check that out. But the original Godzilla is not like the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. Honda didn't want to make the film to get cheers and applause. It wasn't a film that was made to be a good laugh or to be an entertaining blockbuster. Quite the opposite, actually. Gojira was made with the intention of invoking fear and anxiety while also raising awareness about the looming threat of nuclear war that is still present in today's discussion. Hell, one of the most popular films in 2022 was Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer, with the exact same intentions and messaging as 1954's Gojira. Even the main scientist character in Gojira was based off of Robert J. Oppenheimer, who was regretful of the atomic bomb's creation and spent his life blackballing the hydrogen bomb, which the testing of that hydrogen bomb affected Japan and got Gojira made in the first place. Godzilla is used throughout the film in strategic ways, representing chaos to human characters rather than being used as a sole spectacle, which benefits the film since that level of restraint makes Godzilla a spectacle anyway by default. His destruction of Japan is to represent the atomic bomb used on both Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and it's sad and scary, and this is elevated by the human characters that are portrayed to be survivors of a tragedy. The ending of the film even has this Oppenheimer-like character sacrifice himself to kill Godzilla with his own made atomic creation, and the reason he sacrifices himself is for the sake of humanity, making sure that the knowledge of the chaotic power that kills Godzilla dies with him. Even Godzilla's death in the film is not celebrated and cheered. His death is instead seen as a death that never needed to happen. The film instead uses its conclusion to say this, rather than celebrating. Gojira was still made.
So what I will also say is before I left to go see Godzilla -1 No Color and see Godzilla -1 for the 10th time, I did finish more of my script for the book review of Godzilla 54 and 55. And what's interesting is that in the original, like that version of the story, they do actually cheer Godzilla's death, but they also have the line from Yamane still in the story. So I know a lot of people don't like it, and this is brought up to a degree in his mentioning of King of the Monsters. I think that you can have both gods, like people cheering in universe that Godzilla is dead, while also still having the line from Yamane and the scene not be impacted by that. Like overall, like in universe, people would be kind of cheering that the monster that just kind of decimated their city again is no longer gonna attack them anymore, while having another character still like lament Godzilla's death, but also like mention how another Godzilla could appear. So overall, like I didn't get to stop too much through this. Like it's pretty good, and there isn't too much wrong with what he says in this spot right here.
On thin ice due to the hot tensions with the US. So the US is never blamed for Godzilla's creation in the film, but even without the politics of Japan and the US. So Gojira was still made on thin ice due to the hot tensions with the US. So the US is never blamed for Godzilla's.
Well, it's also because the US had to make sure that things like glorifying kamikaze pilots, the Imperial Japanese Army, and like trying to denounce the nuclear weapons that just ended the war were not something to like muddy the Reconstruction period of Japan. And I'm not going to go one way or the other on that topic. I think that's something that would I would want to actually do a full video on instead of like my short thoughts here. But it wasn't like it doesn't feel exactly right to kind of put in this light, but sure.
Creation of the film, but even without the politics of Japan and the US, Gojira is still objectively a war film that provoked a lot of discussion and thought. For 1954, the film is serious and gritty. The human characters serve a purpose, Godzilla serves a purpose. It pushes so many standards in the special effects world as well. It's a masterpiece in world cinema, and is not talked about enough due to it getting censored by the United States, which we'll talk about later. 1954 Gojira is also why I don't like it when Godzilla is an action prop. It just feels like boat rat drives boat to me, since I see the character more.
Now for just adult.
Now, this is kind of where things get a little goofy and where a lot of people don't like it, but the point he is trying to make is that he likes a more serious Godzilla film, and I think that's a sentiment a lot of people share, but just how he goes about it is awful. And now I could really go for some Sonic right now. I'm not sure why.
Action prop. It just feels like boat rat drives boat to me, since I see the character more as a man versus nature rather than fighting toys for children. This is why Godzilla 2014 by Gareth Edwards is the best version of Godzilla in the States. But even then, Godzilla doesn't really work in the United States. 2014 Godzilla is the most grounded of the Monsterverse films, having the most restraint while using Godzilla on frame in unique ways. It's still one of the best looking Godzilla films due to the directing by Gareth Edwards that relies a ton on perspective shots. This sentiment was even kept 9 years later in a spin-off show called Monarch that treated 2014 Godzilla the same way, even with it being
you all know my feelings about Legacy of Slop, so to like outside of G-Day, I don't really think Godzilla is given that same amount of gravitas as he is in the rest of the show. Like we get a few shots with Bikini Atoll, and then there's the big fight with the Ion Dragon, and then him popping out of the ground. But no, Godzilla, it feels like outside of G-Day, he's pretty much the Godzilla he is and caught him up to GVK and New Empire.
Abandoned in later films to a different visual style. Before even getting the reveal of Godzilla in 2014, you could feel his scale. While being smaller than both his King of the Monsters and Godzilla vs. Kong variations, he feels the most massive in this movie. Even for the antagonist Mutos, perspective shots are still filmed from the human perspective, making the creatures scale massively. It makes the monsters feel like real threats in the human world. And seeing the monsters from the eyes of kids on a bus, Marines on a halo jump, or a shot from the evacuation center makes this obvious fiction feel grounded. 2014 Godzilla is really good on this front, with a lot of homages to the filming of 1954's Gojira, before the direction became.
I understand that you want to say it does homages to Gojira, but it would have been cool if you actually kind of showed shots being homaged instead of one shot, which really doesn't carry over from the original film, but okay.
Really stylized, since average moviegoers didn't like barely seeing the monsters, with human characters taking most of the screen time, and when they did see the monsters it was really dark. But even with the more stylish change later, the human characters ended up being worse somehow, giving them more importance and shitty plot lines. But 2014's human problem has a lot to do with how Godzilla is structured, and how it being in the US hinders its storytelling. American Godzilla as a whole is an oxymoron thing to begin with. A thing made to represent America's atomic bomb in Japan is now being used for American heroism. So because of this, you can't really get that much depth with Godzilla, since he's the protagonist ally to the American military. The US doesn't have the same history of catastrophe as Japan did with the atomic bomb, and America is also obsessed with patriotism. So instead of making Godzilla an allegory for the consequences of mankind's actions, or have a much larger depth of Godzilla being a force of nature against the United States, he's now instead Superman, where
I understand the point being made here again as well, but the closest we do get to that is ironically 98 with how Godzilla's origins are structured, but the issue then becomes that we push off the blame for America to France. And I think that the biggest issue I think anyone who's making something Godzilla related to America has to deal with is that we shouldn't be making a Godzilla movie explicitly to blame America. Like Godzilla has always been anti-war, but it's not like they've been trying to lampoon a country, be like, this is all your fault, you're all terrible, and the monster right here just shows how evil you people are. And I think a lot of people will also put in like the Godzilla films as being anti-American for this reason when they very much aren't. And if the films were meant to be anti-American, it seems very odd that Japan would do a lot to cater to the US market if their film was explicitly anti-American. And if they kept to smaller budgets, they would have allowed Godzilla to stay niche and within their home country. So, yeah, the whole Godzilla is anti-American is really stupid. And a lot of Godzilla fans still parry at it, and that is a problem.
It gets recontextualized to be Superman, which is hilarious when you rewatch 2014's Godzilla with this perspective after watching Japanese Godzilla films. First off, that hydrogen bomb test that destroyed the Lucky Dragon 5, which got the 1954 movie made in the first place, well, now the history has changed, and the hydrogen bomb was used to attack Godzilla on that test drop to protect the greater mankind, and it accidentally made him bigger. And after being threatened by this walking nuke and realizing there's nothing the US could do about it, it's now going to be the savior to America against the Japanese threat that was forced up.
A Japanese threat? No, the Mitos were not a Japanese threat. It just so happened that the Mitos came from Jinjira, Japan, and Jinjira has no relation specifically to World War II or American-Japanese relations.
Of hiding by humanity that then attacks Hawaii, where then the Japanese threat gets killed by a walking nuke that goes down in a heroic sacrifice, and then he decides he's got one more in him, so he gets up and everyone claps for him as fighter jets fly by, saving the day as he goes back into the water.
So no, if the point you got from 2014 is that the Mitos are explicitly a Japanese allegory, then you being fucking stupid is not my problem, and I am sorry. But that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And there was something else stupid I saw on Twitter that I'm going to show it to all of y'all. And it has about as much stupid, like quote unquote, allegorical significance as this thing about 2014 and the Mitos being allegories for Japan.
Take in mind, like, thousands of people have probably died to Godzilla, and by the looks of it, evacuation seems to be terrible. It's funny when watching it, because at first Godzilla isn't even the main focus of this Godzilla movie. It's this Japanese threat that Walter White was warning everyone about, and then Godzilla only comes on screen to handle business. And when he's attacked by the US military, at first he doesn't even retaliate or go beast mode. This dude...
Oh. I guess, like, overall, the point being made is that Godzilla is now explicitly pro-American instead of anti-American, which, again, stupid train of logic. But considering that Godzilla does not attack the forces being shot at him because he was there for a specific purpose, like, it's not even like it's out of character for him in the film to be acting the way he is. If he was acting out of character specifically to be pro-American, then sure, but here it's stupid. I know what you're saying, C-Monster, where he's not saying, like, I think the point isn't that they're changing the history, but more like the history that the new origin that has been given to Godzilla, in a way, for some, it could be seen as undermining the point of the original, where instead of Godzilla being a product of the nuclear bombs, he's instead another creature that was, or something else that was supposed to be destroyed by the nuclear weapons, some of the Japanese people. That's the train of logic that I think he's going with. I just don't see that train of logic as valid.
Focus on destroying this Japanese threat and shares this sparkle with the main character where they save each other. It's quite beautiful, actually, how much Godzilla cares about the whole world. No, he just cares about the US, because when he goes to China, even that shit gets absolutely decimated in his ego fight with the gorilla. Making Godzilla Superman is strong.
Well, it's almost like it's like, well, actually, no, that's also stupid, because San Francisco and Vegas got completely depopulated because of G-Day. Not to mention the fact that, like, he's standing in Boston and he completely destroyed it. Considering I live in that general area, I wouldn't really be seeing Godzilla as the quote-unquote hero, since he destroyed the major metropolitan area around my house. But yeah, Godzilla totally cares about America after he destroyed, essentially is responsible for destroying 2 cities, 3 if you count the Mito, and then all the other shenanigans he gets up to in the comics as well that have to do with America. So no, like, the clips you're bringing up contradict your point.
Strange. And later in the Monsterverse, they try to add depth to this. Like, look, he actually killed a bus full of children, and this company called Monarch.
I mean, honestly, yeah, that's fine. I don't mind you harping on Legacy of Slop, because I do feel like that whole Godzilla's responsible for the death of these kids, which spurs on our main character, who's a terrible person to begin with, feels kind of contrived. So yeah, you know, I'm not gonna fault you too much for that one.
arc is really shady with documentation and control, and the whole world is still full of PTSD, which is cool at first, but then you remember this is the same guy in the same world where he teamed up with a monkey to fight a robot version of him that was made by a three-headed dragon that got defeated because water was spilt on the computer, and then Godzilla and the monkey are teaming up to fight more monkeys, and now there's a baby monkey, and now he's pinking in Fortnite. Yeah, it's over.
I mean, honestly, by that same logic, the entire ending of Middle Earth and Lord of the Rings is humans, small humans, and pointy-eared humans fighting against gray people over jewelry. Like, if we want to take all these points and just muddle them down into like the most derogative point, like way you can go about this, then of course it's gonna sound bad. Like, at least have some good faith with this, please.
American Godzilla doesn't really stand for anything. Even in the 2014 film, the human characters are just a guy we follow around and his family. The United States military is skeptical at first of Godzilla's involvement, but then they just accept that he is the only hero capable of stopping the Mutos, and all is fine. There's no discussion.
I mean, considering the fact that, yeah, they weren't able to kill Godzilla with a nuke, so probably it's a stupid idea to actually use the nukes in the first place, which that whole plot point is something in and of itself. So it does make sense that, yeah, if Godzilla is actually just going to fight these monsters and leave, that is ultimately the only decision they could make at that time.
Discussion or nuance about anything in the world. The Mutos that were awakened are instantly vilified without any nuance either. These things were forced to wake up, and all they wanted to do was produce and have kids.
Actually, no, they weren't. The Muto traveled to Janjira, killed a bunch of people, and then like went dormant there. It woke up on its own. They tried to kill it before it could wake up. And considering how the Mutos act around humans, there's enough in the film to where the Mutos are not just some neutral entity.
But their children were blown up by Quicksilver, then the parents were murdered by Godzilla, and everyone still claps in the end, even though everything's still in shambles and a shitload of people died. This is drastically different from the 1954 version, or
yeah, it is different from the 1954 version, but it's kind of in line with a lot of the like late 60s, early 70s Godzilla films, which were made by Japan, and they were the first people to turn Godzilla into a superhero.
Godzilla is treated as a victim, even after he terrorizes and kills a bunch of innocent Japanese people. And instead of clapping when the threat is gone, the audience is instead reminded that Godzilla never needed to happen in the first place, and that because of bomb testing, he's now also robbed of life. American Godzilla being a Superman figure is really safe and boring. It makes no sense due to the origins of the character. 2014 Godzilla isn't flawed because it has human characters and barely shows Godzilla with only a little bit of action fights, because as we see later, those movies are even worse. 2014 is flawed because it doesn't stand for anything and is a safe depiction that makes this Americanized monster a hero without anything to say. And I know 1954.
Well, are you gonna comment on what Japan did with Godzilla? Like, I understand you're like 89, like 98% of them are bad, but then you don't try to say, well, yeah, that's the Japanese films like that are what ended up coming over to America and influencing a lot of people's public perception of Godzilla. So how Japan chose to take the direction they took the character in ultimately does impact where 2014 ends up. And we also see like what happens post the Showa period with Heisei and Millennium, but you don't go into that, do you? It almost feels like you're missing so much history and context behind why Godzilla ended up the way it was in 2014.
Is old and that movie is aged, but recently a movie has come out that has blown all the Godzilla movies in the past 10 years out the water, and it was from Toho Studios, or Godzilla is Back in Japan, and that movie was Takashi Yamazaki's Godzilla Minus One. Godzilla Minus One was why I made this entire video, because it might be the best Godzilla movie ever made, and it actually made me feel something. I'm a big box office pessimist, and lately American blockbusters have been safe, generic, and boring, which is no surprise that they've been flopping left and right because people are burnt out of high-budget mediocrity. So to watch a Godzilla movie with compelling human characters, nuance...
It really feels weird that, like... Okay, one sec, wait.
There's nuance out of high-budget mediocrity. So to watch a...
Why did he show a picture of Shin Godzilla, but then does not talk about the impact Shin Godzilla have, which ends up impacting Minus One? There's so much, like, that it feels missing from this video. And honestly, he could have made a series out of this, and, like, if he'd done more research, then it would have felt like he could have done so much more with this. It's in a way disappointing.
Godzilla movie with compelling human characters, nuanced discussion with critiques on the Japanese government, while having havoc and consequences that feel impactful, while also having an antagonist that is...
Again, why are you showing clips of Shin? Just show clips from the trailers with Minus One. Like I bet so many people are confused as to why you're showing clips of Shin Godzilla, but trying to like relate it to -1 and not even talk about Shin.
Menacing, threatening, and terrifying, all done with $15 million, was beyond satisfying. If it wasn't obvious from the games industry, with companies like From Software and Nintendo, Japan could cook up some pretty cool shit. Godzilla -1 makes American Godzilla look like an embarrassment, because it does everything better. Like 1954, Godzilla isn't a character, but more of a natural disaster. And for a natural disaster to have impact, first you need compelling people to be
I mean, Godzilla's still a character in both films, but okay.
impacted. I cared about the human characters in this film, and I hated Godzilla for what he did to them. But the reason why the human characters were so impactful was because of Japan and how it's depicted. Japan is a place in history that's been through a lot of shit, which makes it a great setting for Godzilla because it goes hand to hand with its creation, like we said earlier. After World War II, Japan was in a low state, and the victims of both Hiroshima and Nagasaki, as well as the firebomb victims, were innocent people caught in the crossfire between feuding militaries. The movie takes place right after
He doesn't know the definition of character. Yeah. It's actually kind of weird that this was done 2 days ago and the whole 15 million thing happened. Like we already realized that it was made for less than 15 million. But wow. Just wow.
World War II with Japan at its lowest point, which brings up a huge point for why this movie exists. It's once again an anti-war film where you're reminded that the Imperial Japan military was not great and that the modern Japanese government is not that great either. Japanese studios such as Ghibli and even films like 1954's Godzilla tend to only depict Japan as the victims to catastrophe from the United States, but something to remember is that after Japan's very flawed attack on Pearl Harbor, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto wrote this in his diary after Pearl Harbor. I fear all we have done is awaken a sleeping giant and fill him with terrible resolve. It makes sense why Japan is very anti-war after what the atomic bomb did to them. But old Japanese media has a massive trend of playing victim in history when, even before the atomic bombs, Japan's military...
So, sure, like a whole other topic in and of itself, but like the reconstruction of Japan post World War II created a country so different that there is indeed a disconnect between like the era of the samurai and then post-war Japan and the restructuring that America did in terms of bringing that country back out of the state it was in. So it makes sense that the people who grew up in like that World War II post-war period would have a very different view of Japan versus what people would say with the hindsight of all of their history put together up until now.
was notorious for conquering other nations and being really brutal, committing tons of war crimes in their history. The Japanese military also had no value for human life, brainwashing an entire nation that dying for said nation was one of the most honorable things you could do. It's why they had things like kamikaze pilots and seppuku. This is why Imperial Japan and American media is portrayed to be so relentless and brutal, not caring if they lived or died. Because for the most part, they didn't care if they lived or died. It was expected that you were going to die in combat. Like I said earlier, with media like Oppenheimer and nuclear war being a really big issue today, the atomic bomb debate is now fresh again. But with everything aside, without the atomic bomb drop, Japan would have continued a relentless war with the United States. So while I know Godzilla 1954 is very much still an anti-war film about how nukes are bad, showing what Japan went through, it does brush past that Japan's military threw a stone at the United States, killing United States civilians when they were well aware they were never going to win a conflict with the United States, but still did it anyway since they needed to get resources from claimed U.S. lands that were under embargo laws. So Pearl Harbor was an attack on the U.S. Navy to demoralize the U.S., but they didn't attack the repair yards, so it was pointless anyway and got their whole nation nuked in retaliation. So while the ethics of the atomic bomb can be debated, Japan's military put their civilians in harm's way for no reason.
Yeah, then that kind of makes sense as to why a lot of Japanese films talking about like post-war period and like how terrible that was are usually from the perspective of civilians or soldiers who didn't see active combat. Like even in Godzilla -1, I think it was a smart choice that Shikishima never actually saw real combat, because it does stop people from like digging more into his character and be like, well, what if he was just like brutally killing American soldiers and muddying like what his character meant. So like it makes sense why the Japanese and a lot of like Japanese films like this are written the way they are. You're just too fucking stupid to like actually just do a little bit of research or add this to your script.
which is why modern-day Japan is more resentful of Imperial Japan when it comes to anti-war rather than the United States. Japan during the 1910s to 1920s was in a really good innovative period called the Taisho Jidai. Japan was transitioning to more of a Western democratic government with a lot of Western influence impacting culture, arts, politics, and many other avenues. I need to clearly state that Japan and Japan's military are two different things. Japan's military was a parasite to the Japanese government taking control from the inside, which, as we know, was the demise of Japan itself. I joked about it earlier, but people like Ishiro Honda, who made the original Godzilla, was even at fault for this. While he acknowledged how horrific war was, he still made propaganda films for the Japanese military, which led to this cancer spreading.
Almost like probably because he was under threat of death or complete shame and ostracization, and considering like everything he talks about in his memoirs, like it was a terrible situation he was put into, and he did not like what he was doing at all. So, yeah, good job. Like anytime people like learn about Ishiro Honda's life, the discourse around it from tourists is the most annoying thing on the planet. Always is, without question.
Propaganda and military control started dragging Japanese society into their conflicts. Men were expected to go to war and die. It was seen as honorable to serve and die for your military. This is why I prefer -1 to the original 1954 movie, because -1 is critical to the Japanese government. Godzilla in the film is going against the normal Japanese.
Also, not to mention the fact that this film takes place in 47, not 54, and like the new Japanese like government had fully been established at this point, and the self-defense force had been fully formed. So Japan was essentially its own nation again. So yeah, setting the time period as 47 instead of 54 just change a lot of the dynamic and allows for -1 as a story to be written. But there's context as to why it works because of that time period.
Japanese people. The government is no help and doesn't intervene, and neither does the US, because if they did, the film would be over in like 2 seconds. But -1 is a critique to the Japanese government.
Well, no, if they decided, let's actually have the US intervene, then more than likely Godzilla would be written in a different way, and therefore the story would have a different meaning because you'd have to add different characters. Like, no, adding the US would change the film drastically, and the director clearly would understand that, which is why he made a decision not to include them.
Beliefs and values in World War II.
You're right, Scotty. Both sides did do terrible things, and I think that sometimes we like to play the oppression Olympics when it comes to talking about like warring nations and be like, this was the worst war crime. Nope, it was this, which it like works in terms of like this caused this to happen, and therefore these are the results of it, instead of, oh, your side is worse than this side because of nebulous amount of bad certain thing is.
Main character is a kamikaze pilot that is full of survivor's guilt because he didn't fulfill the military standards of giving your own life for a government that doesn't really care about you. He is judged by his neighbors for not killing himself in war, and is hateful of himself, struggling with survivor's guilt for also not killing himself in war. The film directly critiques Japan's old views of not valuing human life, or how Japan didn't care about anyone's life really at all. And while Godzilla is still an allegory for the nuclear bomb, the film really conveys how it was the everyday people who had to pick up the pieces and deal with the fallout. Godzilla -1 is an unbiased masterclass when it comes to being an anti-war film. So much so that you could remove Godzilla from it, and it would still be an amazing standalone film. Which brings us back to why America can't do Godzilla. Back in 1954, when Godzilla came to the US, it was censored and remarketed to look like a fun blockbuster, similar to something like The Beast of 20,000 Fathoms, cutting 20 minutes of crucial political discussion. Where then after the main lead was an inserted American reporter, where then the critiques of America's nuclear testing and nuclear power were also censored and changed.
Actually, they do still mention that Godzilla was the product of H-bombs. There would have been only one country that could have been making, like, producing or testing H-bombs around where Godzilla takes place. It's not as on the nose, but it's still in there. Not to mention the reason why they chose to insert an American actor and to do dubbing was specifically to market the film better, because they wanted the film to succeed. So no, it wasn't just them turning their noses at a Japanese product. It was them trying to do as much as they could to make the film as marketable and successful as it was to a new audience. But okay.
1956 Godzilla King of the Monsters is a spineless shit movie that gutted the original impact of the 1954 version, and represents how the United States often views critical media. So when we look at the depth of something...
You mean critical, like, again, 54 isn't super critical of the United States, but okay.
Like -1, and then go back to 2014, you see more cracks of how 2014 has nothing to say. My friend Sweets is Online gave me a quote when we were talking about this video. If you want to know what the biggest piggy bank is in the world, look at the United States military.
Shut the fuck up. Overall, like, the reason like -1 was made similar to Shin Godzilla was made, where they wanted a a high-end Japanese director to do a standalone Godzilla movie. And both Shin Godzilla and -1 do that very well because they tell a very specific message, which does mean a lot to both the Japanese people and has a good message overall that can be translated to other countries around the world. Versus 2014, where it was indeed the look at adapting a product. Like the process behind Godzilla wasn't what he intends to say, which is that it was just propaganda. No, that's stupid.
Funding games like Call of Duty, movies like Top Gun, and many other pieces of media to display the United States military. You could get a lot of your budget paid when you display the military as heroic badasses. But now you have restrictions of being a puppet, not able to bite the hand that feeds you. United States propaganda is so prevalent that you might not even know it's propaganda. To film with American military technology and vehicles is expensive. Thus, why the Department of Defense will give you money, tax breaks, and access to display the military in your film in hopes that people might want to enlist. But the catch is that the DoD has to approve your script and messaging of how the military is depicted.
Almost like what Japan does, because the reason why G-Force appeared in the later Godzilla films in the Heisei era was, I think if I recall correctly, it was because they kind of portrayed the JSDF as like bad guys for shooting on Mothra. So JSDF didn't want like them being in the later Godzilla films of the Heisei era, which is why you see them completely replaced by G-Force by the end of the Heisei series. So, okay.
Thus, we bring up Vietnam. The Vietnam War is heavily scrutinized in American history due to how badly they failed in that conflict and how it was overall pointless. So you have films that represent the brutality of the United States as well as the incompetence, like Apocalypse Now and Full Metal Jacket. And surprise, surprise, they got no funding from the piggy bank. Also, you know that movie Forrest Gump where Sheriff Woody was in Vietnam? Well, that segment was critical of Vietnam, so the script was changed by the Department of Defense because if they didn't, they'd also get no money from the piggy bank. When you do more research yourself, you see how much America cares about their image due to the films being seen
Every country cares about their image. What are you talking about?
nationwide. So they make sure that America looks cool and noble no matter what, even if the truth might not be so. So when you see Godzilla 2014 with a budget of $160 million with American Navy and bomb squads and Air Force all helping Godzilla save the day, it's no surprise that the film had an agreement with the Department of Defense where they provided locations, vehicles, and military representation. And while at times the military is incompetent and kind of useless in the film, it's never acknowledged or critiqued with grand messaging.
Why would it need grand messaging if you were able to find that out easily? Not to mention, actually, in some of the earlier 2014 scripts, they had the military being far more competent, and how they're portrayed in 2014 is much, much better than like Godzilla actually being like driven onto Alcatraz as he is in like the earlier scripts. So, again,
Because like I said, to bite the hand that feeds you is going to drop your budget from 160 million to low 15 million like Godzilla -1.
no, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't. There's a lot of other people who'd be willing to fund a movie, and they wouldn't drop that low. Please, please stop.
It's why Godzilla can't work in America. To be critical of the United States government requires you to be independent. And by how bloated the film industry is with high film budgets and how propaganda has affected how the Godzilla character is viewed, you make more money by having Godzilla be Superman, killing tons of innocent people more than they clap at him saving the day, rather than him destroying the United States with the government losing and being useless. And this has been a problem since 1956, when America turned a tragedy film to a blockbuster.
Well, Godzilla was still meant to be a blockbuster, just like, again, edited blockbuster, but because it's being put in America, and America dropped the bombs there for a bit.
Adding it of any meaning, and no surprise Godzilla King of the Monsters made way more money than Gojira. So much so that
Well, because the American market was bigger too, and then they re-released it in Japan. Like, stop. There's reasons why, and it's not malicious. Be good faith, please.
Japan stopped calling him Gojira and took on Godzilla.
No, they still call him Gojira. They call him Gojira in the film. Oh. What? Like, stop. The Godzilla was done by, like, the Japanese marketing is what Romanized Gojira into Godzilla, so that's why they call him Godzilla instead of just the more correct Romanized Gojira. Stop. Stop, please.
And repainted his image as the savior of Japan that fought giant monsters.
Okay, actually, this is a really funny one right here, and I know my comment is still here. Yeah, it's right here, and it's this film.
520 on Godzilla. made
And there you go.
and repainted his image as the savior of Japan that fought giant monsters
Let's go back.
and took on Godzilla.
We're gonna slow it down. There's 2 Godzilla films brought up, and he says this is when Godzilla became the defender of Japan, fighting monsters. So let's stop.
And repainted his
So Godzilla's still a villain in this movie.
image as the savior of Japan that
Still a bad guy in this movie here. And this film, the original Japanese one, mostly about like the Japanese like TV market and the search for ratings. So I'm not sure why you're saying Godzilla's a hero in this one. There's so many other movies that you could have brought up, like the Heisei movies or the Millennium movies, which you never really show.
fought giant monsters. 529 million, 387 million. They're making money, and that's all that matters now. But
Yeah, but look at like, wait, what?
what is our 29 million, 387 million? They're making money.
They're making money, but
fought giant monsters.
that
529
was the first movie.
million, 387
That's the second movie. Clearly, there is diminishing box office returns on these movies.
million. They're making money, and that's all that matters now. But what is art, and how do we view art? Is a nothing blockbuster funded by the US military better than a $15 million Japanese film with a lot to say because it made more money? Is King of the Monsters better than Gojira since it made more money? We're beginning to look at box office as this risk-reward system.
We've known this for a while. The big box office doesn't mean the movie's better. That's so stupid.
Studios don't see the risk of making something if it can't possibly 10 times its original budget. If Barbie didn't make $1 billion, was it a waste of time?
It still is a waste of time.
If Oppenheimer didn't almost make $1 billion, was that too a waste of time?
No.
And this rubs off how we view movies. If something makes a lot of money, it must be good. And if a movie flops, it must be bad. It's the same as judging a book by its cover. Yes, there's movies that spend way too much money not being creative because they believe they could 10 times their budget by simply existing. But then we get films like Gojira and Godzilla Minus One, which are real creative works of art that stand for something and matter aside from just money, and they need to be praised. But like how everything works, Godzilla isn't liked because of what it stands for, because what America saw was a cool giant monster that attacked Japan, not an allegory.
It's really funny that he ignores completely the fact that Raymond Burr, the American insert that he hates so much, really took Godzilla seriously, and he's the only reason why Godzilla 85 is somewhat close to serious, is because he realized that the character needed to be taken with respect, and that's why he does his speech at the end of that adaptation. But nope, that is somewhat, actually, it is definitely detrimental to the point he is making.
For nuclear war, and what they see now is a Superman figure that could sell toys. Godzilla
You mean like the early 70s Godzilla films and the 60s Godzilla films to a certain point were?
has become a mascot to make money. It's why I can't enjoy the Looney Tunes version. It's why Godzilla can't work in America. But when it works in Japan, it works, and it works well. But if there's
Well, it works well, except for, like you said, 98 of them just being bad.
anything I can hope to get across with this video, it's to research the things you watch, and to give things with passion a try, even if you might not enjoy it. Some filmmakers actually give a shit about what they make, and use art to have a voice and tell stories without the dooming cloud of getting money from your pocket. Minus One is a must-watch, but I fear, like 1954, it won't be acknowledged or talked about in the masses, especially in America due to the subject matter and being a foreign film.
Shut up.
2014 Godzilla, you still look good and are shot very well and have the best roar, but you're nothing but a soulless, nothing piece of propaganda that breaks my heart. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. I now got a Patreon, by the way, where you could see how I edited this video in the future.
I know. Actually, you know what? There we go. If he's gonna show, I get to show. Yay. Yeah, no, that was actually trash. That is one of the worst videos I've ever seen, and I'm at 25 viewers right now. Wow. Oh my goodness. God, I hate Tor so much. This motherfucker never grew up. 2005 to 2013 was search area to be a Godzilla fan. Yeah, no, like, I'll say this. That era was really bad because we didn't get a lot of content, but like a lot of people who came out of that era, I think have a lot of good things to say, in my opinion. And like it does kind of show that I think Godzilla did need some time away just so like we could have movies like Shin and Minus One. And I do think that the 2014 films in the Monsterverse isn't exactly the direction I'd want for the character, but I do respect it overall for like bringing Godzilla back into the public consciousness, I guess. DaVinci Resolve Supremacy. Yeah, I still need to learn DaVinci Resolve. I have it on my computer, but XD. But yeah, no, if he's gonna shill his Patreon, you know what? I get to shill my Patreon. Uh, yeah, so I don't have a whole lot at the moment on there. But yeah, I do have a Patreon set up primarily just to help out with our expenses on the channel. But yeah, you get a Patreon shout out if you do the lowest tier. And if you do essentially like this tier right here, you get access to the Discord, which I've been building a lot of. I may start doing more events on there. And on the Patreon as well, there's going to be a project that I'm going to be working on and posting primarily on the Patreon. But you'll be able to see all of that stuff here on if you do like the lowest tier membership. But that's enough shilling. Shilling's nasty. I'm quickly going to go and take a quick break just to grab some water so I don't die from this cold I have. And then we're going to do the next few videos. So I do 26 seconds and then I'll be right back, guys. All right, I'm back. I have water. My throat is no longer killing me, and yeah, that was wonderful. Thank goodness. I drank through half that water, and you can probably hear my voice. My voice was, I felt like I was gonna die halfway through that video. The Monsterverse is no more corny and soulless than mid 60s and 70s show era. Yeah, I'd say so overall, generally. I would say that like. If I wanted a big blockbuster Godzilla movie, I'd rather it be more serious than the 60s or 70s show era. I'd rather something similar to like the Heisei era or the Millennium era. So that'd be like my take on it, at least. But with that out of the way, at least with this video out of the way from Doktor himself, now we're going to get into at least the 2 videos I saw that jumped on this before I could, actually. So we're going to have some fun and see what they have to say. And if anything they say is of quality. So let's begin.
I love Godzilla. I've loved Godzilla since I was a very, very small child, and I've seen some good and bad takes throughout the years. I mean, I've had some awful takes as well. It's not like as if I exclusively have good takes, even though I do. But today, I have seen what I would consider to be the worst take I've ever seen in the 18 years I have been on this planet, because holy shit, this is a really bad Godzilla take. It's a video by Dr. Skipper, which is Godzilla Doesn't Work in America, which already is a super hot take to have. If you can't guess what this video is about, it's just Godzilla Minus One is good. American Godzilla movies are bad. How original. Godzilla Minus One is a really good movie. It is one of, if not the best Godzilla movie ever made. But unfortunately, with this movie releasing, you have all these YouTubers who don't know anything about Godzilla seeing this movie and thinking they know what the franchise is when they absolutely don't. And I think this is a perfect example of it. I mean, he even says in the video that he doesn't like Godzilla.
There's a big thing I need to address in this video. I kind of hate Godzilla, if we're gonna be honest.
And there's just a lot of issues I have with this video. So the only good thing I have to say is that Godzilla Minus One is good.
File 100% free with turbo.
Well, so far he said a whole lot of nothing, but okay.
There's a couple things in this video that are really, really wrong.
Godzilla is so popular that a lot of people didn't even know that it originated in Japan, or that it's in the public domain in the United States.
Godzilla is not in the public domain. I don't know where you got the information.
I'm just going to probably speed this up a little bit because I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of what he says is exactly the same as what I've said. I know it's an 8-minute video, but like my patience for something like this is also very short, unfortunately.
Godzilla as a character is not in the public domain. If it was, Legendary would not have to directly work with Toho to make American Godzilla movies, or use any of the characters from the Godzilla franchise in their movies, because it's public domain in the US. Now, 1954 movie being public domain is something you could talk about. I keep seeing mixed information on it. If you go to Wikipedia, it says it is in public domain. However, there's no information to back up that. And even then, looking around, I haven't seen an exact date on when the first Godzilla movie became public domain. That I don't really know. However, Godzilla as a character is not in the public domain. It will be like another 20 years till he is in public domain.
But for the most part, a lot of the legacy of Godzilla just reeks of cheaply made cash grabs. So when Godzilla turned into a cartoon for kids, a lot of adults stopped caring.
What is this shit?
So then the cycle reset, and this time Goji went to America, where the same thing happened again.
That is true for the later show Showa-era movies. However, he completely forgets about the Heisei movies as well as the Millennium movies. The Heisei movies are pretty consistent in terms of tone, with only like one really goofy movie, and that's Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. And those series of movies are big successes, with some of the movies outperforming the original 1954 movie at the box office. In a Millennium Era movie, there is a wide mix of goofy movies as well as serious movies. Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Out Attack is a pretty serious movie that takes its characters very seriously. It's not goofy at all. But no, they were all childish movies. No one cared about them until America brought Godzilla back.
And no surprise, Godzilla King of the Monsters made way more money than Gojira. So much so that Japan stopped calling him Gojira and took on Godzilla.
I don't know where you got that information from, but Gojira was not renamed to Godzilla in Japan after the success of the 1956 movie. He is still called Gojira in Japan. Just now, the translation of Gojira is now Godzilla outside of Japan. That is the only thing that's changed. I don't know where you got that information from because it is so wrong.
And repainted his image as the savior of Japan that fought giant monsters.
No, America wasn't the reason Toho made Godzilla a superhero. It was Toho who made Godzilla a superhero. All the way back in like the 1950s when he started fighting monsters. It still had more serious tone. However, that's when we started to see him become more of a superhero. And
Well, even then, actually, this is technically, it's not misinformation as much as like what Skipper's video was, but Godzilla really didn't become a hero until Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, because by 55, 62, and 64, he was still like the antagonist monster. And in the case of 55 especially, neither Anguirus or Godzilla were the heroes. They were just monsters fighting, and whoever won, it really didn't matter to the humans because either one was a bad outcome. So, and not to mention that, yeah, as Toho did transition Godzilla into being more of a hero, but there was a lot of crossover, and AMP did work a lot with Toho in getting those films over to the US. So, and Henry G. Saperstein is gone on record as saying he prefers the more heroic Godzilla and like Godzilla being a hero. So to a degree, America did have some involvement with Godzilla being more of a heroic character, but it isn't like only America made Godzilla a hero and Japan had nothing to do with it at all.
The only reason why he became such a goofy character in Godzilla movies in the later Showa era is because Toho was trying to compete with Japanese television. Their main competitor at the time was like Ultraman and those type of TV shows, which were very goofy and very kid-friendly. So of course they would want to make Godzilla.
Well, Ultraman came out in 66, so Godzilla was a hero before Ultraman had even come out, and it was more like Gamera being a heroic monster, which kind of changed the image for Godzilla to become more of a child-friendly character, and because they had a large like child audience.
Godzilla goofy and kid-friendly to get as many people as they can. So it wasn't America's fault. It was Toho for trying to compete with children's television at the time.
So instead of making Godzilla an allegory for the consequences of mankind's actions, or have a much larger depth of Godzilla being a force of nature against the United States, he's now instead Superman, where he gets recontextualized to be Superman. It's now going to be the savior to America against the Japanese threat that was forced out of hiding by humanity that then attacks Hawaii, where then the Japanese threat gets killed by a walking nuke that goes down in a heroic sacrifice, and then he decides he's got one more in him, so he gets up and everyone claps for him as fighter jets fly by, saving the day as he goes back into the water. It's quite beautiful actually how much Godzilla cares about the whole world. No, he just cares about the US. The United States military is skeptical at first of Godzilla's involvement, but then they just accept that he's the only hero capable of stopping the Mutos, and all is fine. There's no discussion or nuance about anything in the world. The Mutos that were awakened are instantly vilified without any nuance either. These things were forced to wake up, and all they wanted to do was produce and have kids.
I don't think he's watched the Monsterverse movies. The Mutos are not from Japan, they're from the Philippines. The male Muto did go to Japan to a nuclear power plant to absorb its radiation, however, it's not from Japan. So it's not like as if America is beating Japan again. You just made that up. They also established that the Mutos are an invasive species. If they let the Mutos have their babies, the Mutos will take over the entire world, which is why Godzilla's there to stop them. And I don't know why acting like as if Godzilla is the American superhero who is pro-military, stuff like that, when he literally attacks Florida in Godzilla vs. Kong. The same exact movie where he attacked Hong Kong, which you did show in this video. So with him attacking Florida,
not to mention the fact that like we see time and time again in the Monsterverse Godzilla like attacking American assets. So there's that too.
that immediately disproves him being America's superhero.
American Godzilla doesn't really stand for anything, and it's a safe depiction that makes this Americanized monster a hero without anything to say.
Godzilla doesn't need to have a deep message, it could just be a fun monster movie, which I'll talk about later on in the video.
Today is the 23rd of November.
Alright, come on. There we go. Boop, boop.
The main conclusion I got from this video was that you don't like Godzilla. You only like Godzilla when he talks about how war is bad and the government sucks. The only reason why Godzilla has lasted this long, the only reason why we're talking about the newest Godzilla movie is because Godzilla has become such a versatile character where he can fit into any type of movie and it will work. And the reason why he's done that because he has evolved over time to stand for anything you want him to stand.
Like, sure, but we do need to admit that it was Destroy All Monsters introducing a lot of monsters and having that final battle, which really saved Toho from like just stopping Godzilla films. And then we saw diminishing box returns in the Showa series, which then put Godzilla on ice. Godzilla was brought back. Godzilla was serious. And then as the films got a little lighter, they decided to go serious with that final film, put Godzilla on ice. Godzilla becomes serious again. A little goofy with Megaguirus, serious, and then both my Godzilla films serious. The 50th anniversary, very silly, very expensive, did not perform as well. Godzilla put on ice again. So when Godzilla does get silly is when you see a lot of diminishing box office returns for the character, whether it's in America or Japan. So I do think the idea of Godzilla just being able to mean anything is a little exaggerated by people in the fandom, and I think it is a talking point that needs to be examined more properly.
stand for. Godzilla is a vessel to tell a story. He doesn't have to stand for one particular thing. As a matter of fact, the 70-year-long history he has proves that point. And even then, there's multiple Godzilla movies that have political messaging in the movie that talk about issues that is happening in the world back then and now. I'll just throw some examples out there. Godzilla vs. The Thing, or Godzilla vs. Mothra, depending on which version you know, as well as King Kong vs. Godzilla. Both movies are talking about how greed is bad. Godzilla vs. Hedorah. Godzilla literally fought pollution. Pollution's bad. An issue that is still going on to this day. Also, greed is still going on to this day. I probably should mention that. Godzilla Final Wars. Giant monsters fighting each other is fucking awesome. Even Shin Godzilla has political messaging in it. And of course, Godzilla -1 as well. Godzilla was a vessel used to talk about these important issues. Also, acting like as if Godzilla doesn't work in America isn't true at all. The financial success of Godzilla 2014 is what made Toho come back to the Godzilla series after abandoning it after Final Wars. After Final Wars, Godzilla was not making a lot of money for Toho, both in terms of toy sales as well as financially at the box office. The huge success of the American Godzilla movie, they decided to come back to making Godzilla movies. So now we have 3 anime movies that are questionable in quality, as well as Shin Godzilla and Godzilla -1. Without the American Godzilla movies, we wouldn't have the Toho Godzilla movies. Another thing I want to add to the whole Godzilla doesn't work in America thing being not true at all. Godzilla -1 made the most amount of profit in the US, not in Japan, in the US. It is currently like in the top 3 highest grossing foreign films in the US, I think, which is
That's also because the American, like, there's more people in the US who have the opportunity to go see this film compared to Japan. So a foreign film doing better in America than its like native country is going to be the norm with only a few exceptions.
super impressive. So yes, Godzilla does work in America. So anyway, in conclusion, this is probably one of the worst Godzilla takes I've ever seen. But if you agree with this take, that's completely fine. However, you need to do more research before you talk about a subject like this. There's a whole bunch of basement dwellers like me will disprove it instantly. What can I say? I'm tired. Good night.
But if there's anything
I think it's just gonna be him bringing up the same thing from his video. Okay, was this bad? A few things that I feel are a little exaggerated, but not the worst thing. And now this one. This is the 13-minute one. I'm gonna do this. This is gonna be 2 times speed because again, my patience is gonna be really low on these ones.
Listen, I don't normally cover YouTube drama on my channel, but I do cover Godzilla. So I figured I would make this video and it wouldn't really feel too out of left field for people. On January 29th, 2024, a YouTube channel called Dr. Skipper uploaded a video titled Godzilla Doesn't Work in America. And he received a ton of backlash for it on Twitter. Being in the general circle of kaiju Twitter, I figured I would watch it and have an open mind because I really wanted to figure out why everyone was so mad. And it pains me to say this, but this is a poorly made video with terrible pacing and little to no research actually being put in. So after setting up with some jokes, Dr. Skipper states in the video that Godzilla is public domain in America.
Godzilla is so popular that a lot of people didn't even know that it originated in Japan, or that it's in the public domain in the United States, since Toho, the company
The fact that Skipper started so early with that point, it completely destroyed his video because no one's gonna let him live that one down.
Never expected the freak lizard to get marvelized one day, but this free copyright for Godzilla is only in America. In Japan, our boys still in shackles.
This is false. In fact, I'm not even sure where he got this information from and what his source is because he doesn't give a citation in the video. When looking at the official website for the US Copyright Office, it shows that Godzilla is still under copyright and has been since 1954. I went around looking for where Dr. Skipper might have gotten this information, and it looks like he saw Wikipedia listed it as public domain. Confused, I researched further and discovered this specific image of Godzilla. It turns out this image is public domain, not the movie. And this is because of an error from 1970 that caused it to expire and then never be renewed. So to sum it up, no, Godzilla, the character or
That's actually super interesting. I did not know that, and that's really cool. Okay.
the movie, neither are public domain. They are still copyrighted, even in the US. Toho's legal team rivals that of Nintendo. And if you want proof, just look at Godzilla Heritage. It's a fan film from 2020 that was funded through Kickstarter. The filmmakers published 2 trailers for the film and were immediately contacted by Toho's lawyers. It's kind of funny because Dr. Skipper even states that Disney is the most bloodthirsty company when it comes to copyright, but I disagree.
So they didn't renew and manipulate the copyright system like a certain company that does all their beloved IPs. Walt Disney? Breaking news, Mickey Mouse is now public domain. Oh, never mind, just think about Willie. Not even that. The name is still claimed by Disney, so the only legal way to name it is Boat Rat Drives Boats.
Sure, they did issue a copyright claim on Star Wars Theory's Darth Vader fan film, but at least they allowed it to stay on YouTube. Toho didn't even do that with Godzilla Heritage, or should I say Heritage, because the filmmakers were forced to change the name of the film to just Heritage, and the film was only allowed to be released on Kickstarter, not YouTube. That way, only the people that backed the film could watch it, no one else. Fast forwarding a bit, Dr. Skipper outright states that he does not like Godzilla because of what he calls the Jurassic Park effect, where the first film is really good, but the rest suck ass. His words, not mine.
Also, there's a big thing I need to address in this video. I kind of hate Godzilla, if we're gonna be honest. To make this really easy for you to understand, Godzilla has what I like to call the Jurassic Park effect. Jurassic Park is a great movie that has cool dinosaurs and sexy Jeff Goldblum, but the film still has heavy messaging. But Jurassic Park, yeah, the IP is now just CGI wars with Chris Pratt. They have like no cultural impact at all. This is what happened with Godzilla. I don't have any nostalgia for the old Godzilla movies. Yeah, I still watched them a bit when I was a kid, and even rewatched them recently when I got the idea for this video. So no bias. 98% of them suck ass.
Now, I get it. There are some stinkers in the franchise, and this is his subjective opinion. However, it feels wrong to say 2% of these movies are worth watching. I know he's being a bit hyperbolic, but the math shows that doesn't even count for one movie. For every Godzilla's Revenge, we have Shin Godzilla. For every Ever a Horror of the Deep, we have GMK Giant Monsters All Out Attack. Again, I know that this is his subjective opinion, but it just feels weird to make a video on a film series that he doesn't like or understand, and yet act as an authoritative voice. It would be like if I made a video about why Matt Smith is the only good Doctor Who and the rest suck, because I watched an episode back of that specific run in 2018 when I had strep throat. That does not make me a figure of authority. I want to skip forward a little bit and not go over every single inaccuracy, like saying Bernie spilled water on Mechagodzilla's circuit board when it was actually liquor.
And Alfred from Atlanta spilling water on a computer to fry Mechagodzilla's motherboard.
That may sound like a nitpick on my part, but in Godzilla vs. Kong, it's a running gag and is mentioned countless times that Bernie carries around a flask of liquor. In fact, the scene he literally pulled that clip from in his own video has Bernie saying, "I gotta die here with you and sober."
Tax Act understand.
I caught that, but I didn't think it was worthwhile bringing it up. But hey, someone else did, and I commend him for that. Yep. Nope. This one I have two ads for this one. Wonderful.
That's the solution. I gotta die. You it's over.
Again, I know it's a minor nitpick, but he says it numerous times in the video, and it goes to show the lack of research or understanding of what he's actually talking about.
They got defeated because water was spilled on the computer.
Later on, Dr. Skipper states in the video that Godzilla Minus One is a breath of fresh air compared to every other film being awful. It proves that Godzilla does not work in the US because of how Japan-centric the King of Monsters really is, and he compares Minus One to the original 1954 film in both tone and quality. This is something I would actually agree on, somewhat. In my opinion, Minus One is the best Godzilla film ever made. I saw it 5 times in theaters. However, it's wrong to call it a breath of fresh air when Shin Godzilla was released back in 2016. Oddly enough, Dr. Skipper doesn't even mention Shin in this video, and he actually shows clips of it when he's talking about Minus One.
So watch a Godzilla movie with compelling human characters, nuanced discussion with critiques on the Japanese government, while having havoc and consequences that feel impactful, while also having an antagonist that is menacing, threatening, and terrifying, all done with $15 million.
Shin Godzilla is much more in line with the 1954 film than Minus One. If I'm being completely honest, I think there's more exploration of the nuclear weaponry themes that are present in the original, as in Shin, the entire climax of the film is about stopping Godzilla before the US drops a 3rd nuke on Japan. We really only see the nuke go off in Minus One, and that's about it. We don't really see much else from it. It doesn't really have overarching themes. We never really get the idea that it's going to happen again, whereas in Shin Godzilla, it's expanded upon in greater depth. However, he never mentions Shin Godzilla in his video, and if I had to guess why, it's because he didn't watch it. Dr. Skipper also implies that Godzilla...
Yeah, that's kind of feels like my own perception of it. Like, it's really interesting that he does have a lot of Shin clips, but does not bring up Shin at all. Even like saying, oh, there was Shin Godzilla, which was okay, but then there was Minus One. It does feel like he did not watch Shin and completely missed that one.
Was never a hero, and that he was made a hero by the US, and this was something that was never done before in the past. Oddly enough, he does this while showing clips of Godzilla being a hero in Japanese films from the 70s earlier on in the video. Again, this is a fundamental misunderstanding of the character. Godzilla is not Gamera, right? He's not a kid's superhero or a defender of children, and he certainly isn't a patriotic figure in the Monsterverse. Godzilla restores balance to nature. That is something that is stated constantly in the Monsterverse films. He's not afraid to lay waste to American soil, as shown in Godzilla vs. Kong, because they overstep their boundaries in trying to build a Mechagodzilla in Pensacola. Of course, that was a company, not America, but you get what I'm saying. Dr. Skipper even shows shots of Godzilla with American battleships in 2014, and this is wildly out of context. Sure, he's not outright destroying these ships, but that doesn't mean he is their ally. The US military is actively following Godzilla and keeping watch of him because of everything that had been going down with the Mutos in that film. Not to mention, Godzilla is listed as a threat to national security at the start of 2019's King of the Monsters. There's an entire Senate hearing at the start of the movie that is centered around him being a potential threat to not only America, but the world. Dr. Skipper also goes on this really weird tangent about the Mutos representing Japan and Godzilla representing America, and that's in the 2014 film. The entire thing feels very half-baked. Godzilla emerges in the film not as a destroyer, but as a force of balance. He's a guardian of Earth. He's restoring equilibrium in the face of cataclysmic threats. His portrayal reflects a universal archetype of a protector, transcending national boundaries to embody the primal forces of nature. Remember, Godzilla is shown in not just America, but in several countries throughout the Monsterverse. He isn't just in America the entire time. The Mutos, on the other hand, are shown to represent humanity's unintended consequences and the dangers of nuclear energy. They literally eat nukes. While their emergence in the film's narrative is triggered by human activities, their threat extends far beyond the borders of Japan. They represent Japan as much as an earthquake or a tsunami represents Japan. Now, the main thesis of his video is that America is incapable of adapting Godzilla, and that the monster does not work here. I'm going to have to disagree. I think comparing Minus One to the Monsterverse is like comparing apples to oranges. Minus One is a callback to the original 1954 film, while the Monsterverse is more in line with the Showa era. It starts out serious and grounded, but gradually gets more and more insane as it continues on. And that's okay. Godzilla is probably the most versatile character in fiction, besides maybe Alfred E. Newman. In its original context, Godzilla symbolized the horrors of nuclear weapons and the lingering fear of radiation following World War II. Over time, though, Godzilla started to represent other things, like environmental themes. Look at films like Godzilla vs. Hedorah, where he's basically Captain Planet. This new theme serves as a cautionary tale about humanity's impact on the planet and the
Like, sure, but I don't even think Godzilla, like the character specifically, represents anti-pollution. More or less, like Hedorah represents it. Like, I think that because other monsters represent different things in the films that they're introduced in, that we'll just say, oh, Godzilla represents these things because Godzilla's in those films as well. That'd be my take on it. But like, again, it's not wrong what he's saying. It just could provide a little bit more context.
consequences of unchecked industrialization. Beyond that, though, Godzilla has appeared in a wide array of genres, ranging from sci-fi and horror to comedy and even animation. The versatility allows storytellers to explore different themes and narratives while retaining the core essence of the character. Godzilla has undergone significant character development over the years, and that ranges from being a destructive force of nature to a defender of Earth. And this evolution adds a lot of depth to the character and allows for nuanced storytelling. He can be Superman, like Dr. Skipper complains about in his video, or he can be a demon that specifically targets humans and tries to wipe them out, like in GMK or -1. He can be whatever the filmmaker wants him to be. And if you want a source on that, my source is Toho. They have reintroduced him so many times as so many different things. Not to mention, Godzilla's ability to reflect societal anxieties and concerns makes him relevant across different cultures and time periods, ensuring that his popularity endures as well as having a strong presence in pop culture. I mean, can you imagine how boring it would be if in every single movie he was in, all 38 of them, he did nothing but represent nuclear warfare? That would be the most boring thing in the world. It would get...
I mean, there's a lot you could do when it comes to nuclear warfare, not to mention 54 and 84 are not the same film. So if you're talking about like a trilogy of Godzilla films that specifically just focus around nuclear warfare, there's a lot that you could talk about, especially if you also are setting it over a larger time period. But I do think like people see that Godzilla appeared in a lot. There's not a lot of consistency between all the films. So therefore Godzilla can mean anything, and that if Godzilla only meant nuclear weapons, that he'd be bad. It is something that comes from the fandom itself, and I do think that is an issue, but that's not really what Skipper's video is about, and I will just leave that there.
tiring after the first like 5 instances, which it did. That's why they changed it up after the second film, and he started to represent things beyond that. Ironically enough, Dr. Skipper talks about how Godzilla 1954 is super serious, and he rips on the goofier films like King Kong vs. Godzilla and Terror of Mechagodzilla. Ironically enough, the director of Godzilla 1954, Ishiro Honda, also directed King Kong vs. Godzilla and Terror of Mechagodzilla. Those films that you say are too goofy were directed by the same guy that made Godzilla 1954. Ishiro Honda understood Godzilla more than any other director, and he understood the power of that character lies in its versatility. You can realistically stamp any message on Godzilla and it would work, because it's a giant monster that tramples buildings. He could represent the Cold War. He could represent climate change. He could represent pretty much anything you want. And look, I don't want anyone watching this video and then going and harassing Dr. Skipper. I'm not even that the guy. I just want him to do more research and to have a better grasp of what he's actually talking about in his videos. I'm not saying he has to cite every single thing he says. What I am saying is,
But yeah, that's here there. I've never seen this guy's channel before, but apparently he also does Godzilla stuff, so good for him. Firewood Media. I just want to see if he's done any other Godzilla stuff that may be interesting that y'all would want to check out. There's this one, Man in the Suit. Credit. Might have to watch that later on when I have time to. And a lot of Harryhausen stuff, so that's actually really cool. Good for him. So I'll be coming back to this channel later. Let's do that one first. Say to watch later. Alrighty. Yeah, I'll do the Twitter thing I saw before I bring people on. So let's see, anything worthwhile. I see, but this is yeah. Yep, there we go. So this guy or person, I don't know, is coming from this thread right here, and it's apparently something Rick said, but I don't really care what he has to say, and takes really bad anyway. But yeah, so this person is literally saying that gold in King of the Monsters is supposed to represent Donald Trump, and that Mothra is a representation and supposed to be Hillary Clinton. Yes, I kid you not. This person thinks Mothra is an allegory for Hillary Clinton. And yeah, then this person is like, after I'm just like, that's my only response, because when you see insanity like this, you can either laugh at it or you could just sit there and state the obvious. And these like political allegories are wild. I mean, don't piss on my head and tell me it's raining. Like, please don't. And I think people who like talk about allegories like this literally just want to have something they like, say something they agree with, and then therefore, huzzah, it totally means it. Yep, that is actual literal schizo posting. It's pain. What I just saw, that was pain. But now I really need anyone, if you're an artist listening to this, please, oh please, could you like draw Mothra as Hillary Clinton just for the memes alone, and then send it to me, and I can post that on for the next Kaiju Roundtable that we're doing. I would love that so much. And then Soldier Energy, he never outright says that this is his subjective, so it comes off as something objective because that says a bad take, misinformation. That is correct. It does come across as misinformation. And I just realized I am very much behind. All right, nope, chat finally caught up. So yes, Pyro. I know how much you love. I know how much you love the Godzilla franchise, Pyro, and it's what you need to do. Please, Pyro. I hope you come on to give your thoughts on this, just so you can talk about that specific schizo post that we just saw. So yes, I'm gonna start bringing people on if people want to join. I had a few people who I know wanted to join, and in those cases, what you're going to be doing is just kind of give your thoughts for a few seconds, and we're just going to scuttle through as many people on this as possible before we sign out. No, just no, I'm not painting my sketch pad. But please, Brandon, it's for the greater good. It's for the morbid good. So yes, I'm gonna start doing this where if you are on the Discord or in the Discord, I will put a link there for y'all. It's primarily there to specifically allow people to who pay to get into Discord can access me a little bit easier. And there are a few people who have not, and there are tiers and stuff for people who have not paid, because there's going to be rewards if you do. So for the people in the Discord who want to join, I just put it in general chat. And for some of y'all who aren't in the Discord who want to join, but I know are like bigger YouTuber people who wanted to say something, the floor is yours. So now all we do is wait for that wonderful goodness to occur. So yes. In the meantime, if y'all got questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. And then presentation. Oh. There we go. Would you rather spend $5 on a gourmet meal or $20 on a Whopper? Change the gourmet meal and Whopper with -1 in GXK. I'd rather spend, $5 on a gourmet meal versus $20 on a Whopper. That's an easy choice. We just hop in Discord. No, the link to the StreamYard is in the Discord. So if you are in the Discord, just check general chat. And if not, I know I did send it out to a few people in DMs who want to join in. So, hey, Pyro, you should. Yeah, you do have one. There you go. Mr. Trump, welcome for joining us tonight, sir.
Hey, watching that video, like, I love when this discourse happens, like, every time we start, like, questioning the quality of American Godzilla movies, because I swear I've seen it happen, like, 8 different times now.
It's gonna keep happening. It will always happen. It is eternal.
I love that, like, it's never anything new either. It's always just like, well, you see, let me push my anime glasses up. Actually, America doesn't know how to represent that thing because the bomb, and it's all like
you need to do it. You need to do a drawing of that. Just the bomb.
The bomb.
The bomb.
It's not even gonna be the bombings or a nuclear cloud. It's just gonna be my really bad tracing of Dwayne the Rock Johnson, but it's just the bomb.
Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Do, do.
My favorite part in just watching, not even you go through it, but like just the amount of people while you did like go through other people, just how much shit from the get-go dude got wrong. And you kept
Public
saying
domain
like
Godzilla.
Yeah, like you kept saying like, oh, it's, you could just research. It's like, bro, it's not even basic. It's not even research. You just quite literally have to look it up. Like you just have to look it up because like, no.
It's like that one ASF skit. And welcome to standing up class, and you failed.
Yeah, like welcome to standing up class. You absolutely failed at this.
You literal fucking cretin. You foolish fool. But kids these days, these youngings, and don't understand Godzilla because he's younger than me, so I am allowed to say that now.
Wait, how old is dude?
He was born, I think he said he was like 12 or something in 2014, so he's only a couple years behind me.
Damn.
Yeah,
I'm not even gonna give it the youngin excuse because it's just like,
oh no, he's like has to be like a young adult now, or like in his 20s at this point. But,
oh no, like for me, it's just like I never give the youngins that excuse anymore because it's not like ye old days in the past where to go and learn you had to walk uphill in the library in the cold and the sleet and the snow just to get to the library, which had 2 books. Like, no, motherfucker, you have a computer in your pocket. Like the fact that you stumbled over Godzilla of all things being public domain is just like, wow, bro, really?
You did not even try.
You didn't even try. It reeks of a video, and the reason I like that, like one of the people brought up Doctor Who was like, this is a video that you would make if you had absolutely no idea what you were talking about, but you really wanted to just have an opinion on it and have it be out there.
It feels as like it's like about as bad as all of the what's it called? Like the Berserk videos I always see. Anytime Berserk discourse comes on, I see people with really bad takes about the series.
For me, like my go-to is just like every time you know Warhammer, right? I am
Yep.
assuming my role is Primarch. Like every time,
Wait,
like
who'd you say was the best Primarch?
no, I said my name is Primarch in your server. My role
Oh
is
yeah, you are
Primarch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I have
I was
everything
just saying.
theming Warhammer.
Yeah, my thing is like it reminds me of like the discourse that always gets brought up like once every couple of months with Warhammer, where like some idiot will just take a glancing look at it and they might pick up a book and realize, holy shit, everybody in this universe is a fascist. And that's where like their analysis ends. That's where all research ends. They don't bother to actually look at the games workshop where they're like, we know. That's the point. It's a whole satire on the thing. It's all gonna get really silly and bad from here. And then the discourse becomes every few months. Why are we just allowing this bastion of fascism and hatred? And it's like you didn't even do any research. You didn't even look up the people who make the game or the books, did you? Like, because you would learn a lot if you just see what they said on it. You would learn a lot about Godzilla and the franchise if you just did a cursory look at it.
Mm-hmm. And we also we got someone new in the chat or in the stream this time. It is Sea Monster Essays. Welcome, sir. Hello, good sir. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Are you alive, sir? Hello. Hear you loud and clear, sir. How are you doing?
We hear you.
Are we synced up? Hold on.
No, you're good. Don't worry. Or maybe we're not synced up.
So, like, we can hear you. Can you not hear us?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, there might be a little bit of a delay too, actually. Yeah. If there isn't a delay, I'm doing good. Thank you.
It seems like on my end,
there's a delay.
Oh, there is a delay. Okay. Let's see if what's it call it? If I can try to fix it. Can you hear me now, Sea Monster? Nope.
Yeah, you're kind of cutting a bit in and out, but I can hear you.
Okay, so it's probably just a small delay. We
have the best tech issues, folks. The best tech issues.
Thank you for that, Pyro.
You won't believe our tech issues. No one has tech issues quite like we do.
If overall, given the fact that you've actually watched this on your own, what would you say your general thoughts on this were, as well as Godzilla discourse in general? Of course, you've got the Monsterverse Godzilla in your profile here, so I want to hear your thoughts.
Oh God, that. My thoughts on the Monsterverse movies or the video?
Just the video.
Is there a delay still?
No, I don't think so.
It sounds like there's a small delay.
Womp womp. At least I can say that the connection from my iPads is working fine, which is good. There might still be a delay because people are still looking at the I talk about Trump, so there may be a full delay on the stream, and I'm not even realizing it. Oh well. That's why I love the tech issues.
This is why you can't rely on him, folks. Zoomer Zim, he'll always let you down.
So yeah, the video was pretty bad. I gotta say.
Oh wow, that's a major delay.
I'm gonna quit it with the Trump while we deal with the delay.
I don't think I'm not sure what's causing the delay. It may just be something we'd have to weather. But I will bring on someone else. What's it called? I know he's in the server as well. Deepwater Detective is also here. Hello, good sir. While we're dealing with the weird delay issues. I'm not sure what the problem is.
Hey there, can you hear me just fine?
Yeah, I can hear you good.
Hey Zim, how's it going?
It's going good. It's going good. What would you say your thoughts are in terms of the video that we were just exposed to today?
Well, it's definitely cringe. I'm not gonna lie about that. The other thing too is that it's
Oh, wait, we just lost Detective.
Oh,
No,
Lord.
no. Wait, I think he came back. Let me add him back
Oh.
to the stage. There we go. You're back, good sir.
yeah, the computer issues never stop, do they?
Yeah, no, it feels like Sea Monster's still having a delay issue. Say no if you just heard what I said, Sea Monster. If not, it may just be a delay issue, and in that case, you're probably gonna have to just restart and come back into the stream. The link that I sent you on Discord shouldn't go away. So if you need to fix that, that's not a problem.
Okay, so just talking a bit more about the video right here. It's
I'll
I
try
don't
to
know.
come back, later, pretty much, maybe give it a minute.
Yep. Okay. Let me bounce you out, Sea Monster, and try joining later. Just probably restart your computer or see if anyone else is on your network. That may be causing issues as well. So let me do that. And you're good to go, Detective. Give us your thoughts.
Okay, so having watched the video that you exposed me to on the live stream, though it's probably for the benefit of this video, it kind of raises some interesting thoughts in my head because I've kind of been wondering this exact same thing myself. You know, about Godzilla working for other countries, other non-Japanese writers, having the license, or what people will do if other people have the license to Godzilla, even if they're not Japanese. And my kind of rejoinder or counterpoint to that is just look at Guillermo del Toro, for example. He isn't. I don't think he. I think he has. I know he's a Kaiju Eiga fan. That I know for sure. I've watched the Pacific Rim special features, and I know I watched the special where he talks about very briefly. You can actually find it on YouTube on Criterion, about talking briefly about Godzilla in 1954. And even then, even though he's not Japanese, you can tell that he knows enough and gets the character enough to where he has a good working knowledge of it at the very least. And then we look to someone like John Carpenter, who said that Godzilla 1954 is like one of his most influential films of all time. So that's another director who has, I would say, has a fairly good grasp on the character. And heck, even Godzilla 2014's director Gareth Edwards, he has a better grasp than a lot of directors, I'd say, who really knows what Godzilla, or at least he gets the feel of Godzilla, if you know what I'm saying. So already, I would say that those are three counterpoints to Dr. Skipper's argument there, if you get what I mean.
No, I get what you mean. But, like, for example, do you think that the later films don't do a good job of doing Godzilla in America, since that's Doherty and Wingard, or do you feel that they still do him fine, and like what would be your reasoning behind that?
I'm not too sure what the reasoning would be behind that. I'm guessing people just want to kind of hang blame on something, because the other thing you have to really consider too is we may be Godzilla fans, but we may not necessarily see Godzilla in necessarily the same light as the other. It's sort of like how if you compare like different iterations of characters like Sherlock Holmes, Batman, or even Superman, they're always going to have some differences between the other, and it would even extend further to say if like a person from Denmark wrote a Batman story, or if a person from Japan wrote a Superman story. There are always going to be differences in that. So I think people forget the nuances sometimes in creative differences. And it isn't necessarily mean that it's good or bad, but what I see in the Dr. Skipper is that, just because they did this character differently than what his original nation did, that means it's inherently inferior. Not necessarily. It's just a different take on a character that has existed for a long time. I hope I'm making a good enough argument here.
You're making enough sense. I get the point. I would say that in that case, how would you square away his point where because America bombed Japan and we're now making Godzilla films, but not directly like blaming ourselves for the nukes being dropped, that therefore that's why Godzilla can't work in America? Any thoughts on that? Or you don't really have like a thought out like retort to something like that? I know Pyro, I know you definitely do, but any thoughts, Detective, on that? Ooh, someone else is in here. Let me add my ex-wife. Hello, ex-wife.
Hey, how you doing?
Let's make it quick, altar boy.
I find it to be a bit of...
No, that wasn't directed for you, Detective. That was for Brayden. I'm so sorry.
I could take it multiple ways. Which way do you want it?
Anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say here is that it's kind of like a really crap argument to bring that layer in there, because yes, historically America is responsible for that. Now, I'm not American, I'm Canadian. Don't at me for that.
Oh, Snow Mexico.
Wait, what'd you call it?
Snow Mexico.
Snow. Yep.
Yeah.
Wait, does it have brown people?
No, it has white people. That's why it's a Snow Mexico.
Ew, okay, all right.
That's how it works.
If it did, I was gonna have to ask.
Lord, let the man finish his point. Jesus.
Hey, it's fine. I was expecting this. But one, I think it's like a really low blow for him to use that, because, again, it's something that has happened in the past. So the argument can be made for whether or not that's a legitimate argument. And I don't know. I just find that to be a rather... I keep calling it a low blow, but it kind of is, because I think they're forgetting more of the historical context behind the era in which they're referring to. And if you have been educated on that era, World War II was not a pretty era. Neither was World War I, but one can make the same argument that World War II absolutely was not. It definitely has a lot of darkness to it. And what people also forget is that, they could argue that all sides of the war have some blood on their hands. So, and really, if you look at it, Godzilla really only represents a particular side to that era. So the other counter argument I would say to that is it's a little one-dimensional to use that, and again, as shown in the in that one counter argument video that you had up there, the guy correctly noted that Godzilla has evolved rather well over the different eras. In Godzilla versus Hedorah, he is used as an environmentalist, a message. In Godzilla 1984, he was used to represent like not just the horrors of nuclear warfare, but also the terror and the suspense that the Cold War brought. Those are only just two other examples I can bring up. Then, of course, with Shin Godzilla, we have the Fukushima Daiichi disaster and earthquake happening there. So I don't know. It's, again, Godzilla can really represent a lot of things. To me, he will always represent what the Japanese done. But if I were to do a Godzilla story, I might portray him differently. Heck, Yamazaki has Godzilla be a stand-in. If you really watch the movie, Godzilla is really sort of a stand-in yes, maybe for nuclear atomic warfare and all that, but really for Shikishima in the movie, he represents PTSD. Really, if you really look at what Yamazaki was doing with him there. So there's that. I'm not too sure if you got the point, but that's sort of the argument I present.
No, I get the point.
Can you repeat the question again, Zim?
Essentially, since America bombed Japan, therefore we can't do a Godzilla movie because all we should be doing with a Godzilla movie is essentially criticizing America's actions in World War II, because that's what Godzilla should be about, is just the bomb. That's essentially the point that Skipper's making in his video. So, thoughts on that?
For me, I'm of two minds because I can never really separate Godzilla from a lot of the influences that went into creating him. And unfortunately for us as a fandom, and when we have these conversations, they are so well known and so talked about it that they become the meme of like, the bomb is just the bomb. But for me, when I think about it, I think there is, like, at least when I watch it, like, I am interested in seeing how us as Americans try and tackle a story where we can't really do the original one because, yeah, it would seem as like a self-plagiarizing, we're sorry, we know we're evil and we know we did the bad and no one wants to see that. But I don't agree with Dude's point where it's like, oh, because, of Godzilla's origins, we can never actually depict or display the character or like tell different stories with it. I think that, like, while it may have been created because America dropped some bombs and we, nuked Japan, I don't think the stories that Godzilla is able to be told, the stories that Godzilla is able to tell, I don't think those are limited to just, the bomb or, the guilt that comes from that specific era in history. I think when you look at the environmental and shit, like, I hate to do that meme too, but like, he's a versatile character. Like, if you can write him well, he can slip in to mean just about anything. I did like, I'm sorry, I forgot the name, but like viewing Godzilla -1 as like thematically telling about like how PTSD comes and fucks shit up. Like, yeah, that's a theme that like I picked up on right away. Me and my friend watching, it's like, yeah, every time this dude thinks he's about to be happy, like, he starts going through like these PTSD like episodes, and then fucking Godzilla shows up and wrecks his like life. But like, yeah, I think that point is just dumb. I think despite where he originated from, like, you can use Godzilla to tell a variety of different stories.
Yeah, that's a good point too, Perrin. And I also just would like to add in as well that if you've seen the BBC Godzilla documentary, I highly recommend it. Really recommend it. A lot of the original Japanese directors and even the like Kenpachiro Satsuma-san was on there. Jun Fukuda, I believe, said that when discussing the 1998 film, I know we're not supposed to talk about it, but hear me out here. He said that the story is interpreted so differently, but he went on to say that he thinks that multiple different takes on Godzilla could exist. And to quote his words, for example, you could have a Japanese Godzilla, then you can have an American Godzilla, and then maybe you could have a British Godzilla, although of course we have Gorgo for that. So, but even he kind of brought that up. So yeah.
Brayden, your thoughts on that topic? Oh wait, he's muted. Never mind.
Sorry, I was getting water.
Oh, you don't get to get water on my stream. I get to get water on my stream.
Yeah, well, you left me dry last time, so. So I mean, there's a lot of topics here, and I feel like a lot of them have been covered pretty well. Although the whole concept of, oh, you guys dropped the bomb, so you can't cover him well, I think that's stupid, because it's like, man, that is that's assuming that anyone who's American will automatically have a toxic sense of nationalism to the point of like not admitting mistakes or even exploring the nuance of the past, which I'm sure you guys know is quite the common perception these days of just assuming people don't look at nuance. Well, people don't look at nuance in general, but yeah, I think that's stupid. I think it's very plausible that an American could explore or even go against the bombings.
I think I could totally see like an American doing it, but I could also see a bunch of people saying they didn't go far enough if like it's not made a specific way. I could totally see that dominating the discourse behind an American Godzilla film that tackled that topic.
I think the biggest issue when it comes to like not even Godzilla, but like when America does films that tackle like the suffering of other people, one of the biggest complaints, and it ties into what Zim just said, where like you will hear a lot of complaints from like very small groups or sometimes, you know, a large group or two where it's like, oh, you didn't do it quite the right way. Part of the reason I personally feel like that specific OG story just kind of needs to be made by Japan is like, man, we really don't have that experience as a nation of like even not even nuclear bombs, but just like the idea of bombs falling on our country. Like we are really hamming it in when we try, if we were to try and like write that level of feeling, where I think like if you're trying to do a serious movie and you're trying to like accurately depict those, yeah, I give it to the people who knows what that feels like.
I think it's possible for an American to pull it off.
It's not impossible. Yeah,
I think like
impossible.
there's already. I think there's going to be a built-in
small.
inauthenticity. I think a lot of people, like regardless of how good it is, there's going to be a lot of people being like, "No, it's not authentic. You're an American. You'll never understand it." Kind of view.
Yeah,
like,
but I think
being
that's just a
persistent.
disingenuous read on those people's parts.
I think it's a disingenuous read, but I think it's a read that has enough weight to it that there's going to be like it would take up a lot of the discourse around it if something like that was to happen. And like the only other example of like American tragedy being expressed to a monster movie was Cloverfield, and I don't even think that film did the best it could to express that event happening. As much as I like the film for what it is, they could have done so much more with it.
I think Cloverfield gets a one-up on like Monsterverse Godzilla flicks. On like the Cloverfield accurately did portray what it would feel like to be not a main character like, you know, Lieutenant Brody who can magically disarm. We went like, you're not Sergeant Brody, you're not Emma Russell, you're not Madison, you're not any of these main characters. Cloverfield gave one of the only improper views of like, yeah, you're in the middle of a monster flick now. Good luck. Goodbye. Oh, what are your weapons of survival? Here's a fucking camera, dude. Good luck. Good luck. And that's one of the things I really like about Cloverfield. I don't know if we could do in America a large budget film where the themes are present in the writing stages and they transfer over to like the filming stage, and then like you tackle shit on that level of like realness where it's just like, oh, people are running, and then like you're seeing these small things happen in the background, these small, you know, deaths and shit, and it's like, well, they're people, and you know, they're dead. Like, I don't know if we can tell that story, because even in the Monsterverse, we kind of began to shy away from it really early on.
I think that's like a consequence of like big tentpole blockbuster stuff, because like,
oh yeah, they're new.
The closest you get to like any of like these like fantasy sci-fi character films doing that to any significant degree was like kind of in the Dark Knight trilogy, and then with the Batman. If you look at how like DC works with like the DCEU now, like you wouldn't see that same kind of like.
Oh yeah, that like and like this is
it's
what
possible.
I'm using,
I think it's like
this is what I'm using to make my point. Like where it's like our studios in America, at least in Hollywood, we're really reluctant to do that in general. Like I can only think of a few times in general where we've done that. And you're right. It's like, you know, fucking they really overdid Man of Steel. They tried to do it with like the early Batman trilogy, like Cloverfield, like a few movies here and there, but like not really. Not recently, I should say. Like we've strayed away from that, where I think like the way they handled -1. Yeah, I'm comfortable letting them tell that story where it's like, no, we're writing a movie that actually has a fucking theme.
I think that a Western, not even a Western Godzilla film, maybe a Western kaiju film, it can have metaphor, but the key is that it has to be done well, and that's the problem, is that either that isn't done well, or it isn't, as Perrin said here, they didn't go too far enough. So it can be done. It's just whether or not they are going to lean into the more, lack of a better word, artistic side of the spectrum, and really seeing whether or not it could work. And that's really sort of the issue I have with that, is whether or not they care enough to really do it well. Cloverfield is the only one, to my knowledge, that has kind of gotten the closest to that, at least over here in the West. But even
I would disagree with you there, because while Cloverfield is the example I picked out, the one other kaiju movie in recent times that has gotten nearly as big as Godzilla before it flopped horribly was Pacific Rim. Pacific Rim, the first one, was a amazing movie, and the themes and like thematic parallels to climate change, and how like their solution is to build a big wall and then you watch it crumble.
Whoa.
It was really good, and then the second one was trash.
There's no second one. I don't know what you're talking about.
There is
Pacific
no
Rim
second
Uprising?
Pacific Rim. No, there is no Uprising in Bossing Say.
There's no uprising and bossing say.
Let me tell you, folks,
Okay,
Pacific
okay.
Rim was the greatest single kaiju flick ever. I'm glad it never got a cinematic universe. Cinematic
Exactly. No
universes
show,
are
no-
overplayed.
Imagine a show. That'd be fun.
There's no show. I can tell you there was a kaiju show, and it was terrible, folks. It was called Legacy of Monsters, and it's the only kaiju show. Let me stop.
Oh my god, I hate that show.
Okay, Perrin, you have a point, but I still think it can be done. It's just that whether or not the writers and the creators care about that, which I personally do not see that happening in the current Western filmscape at all.
Oh, like that. That's why, again, like you guys are making my point for me. That's why I'm saying it can't be done, because in our, January 31st, 2024 landscape of media, it's hot fucking trash. Like we see it's hot fucking trash. It's not even, appetizing hot trash. It's just microwaved garbage.
It does make you think, though, if like you could see like a studio like A24 or something doing a kaiju film, not even like a recognizable monster, just like being like, do a kaiju film, get some really like out there director to do something. And
Well,
see what they
apparently
can work out.
Blumhouse is thinking about it.
Well, they're getting Yamazaki. I'm not sure what they're getting him for, though. That's the question. But like even then, that's up in the air.
Could you guys imagine if one of the directors of these kaiju movies said that he didn't care about the story? Wouldn't that be crazy?
Wait, who? What? Say that again?
Oh.
Braden is leading into something where like one of the directors said they didn't.
Do you guys not know about this? Oh no.
Well, no, because I was
feel like
I was checking something
vaguely-
on my drawing pad, and I did not hear what you just said. So
No, like
I said
Braden
it'd be
is hinting
crazy.
at. Go ahead, Braden.
I said it'd be crazy if one of the directors of these American kaiju movies straight out said he didn't care about the story.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no, I know exactly where you're going into. Now that
Yeah.
you said it, yeah.
For context, in the audio commentary of GVK, Wingard straight up said no one cares about the story.
Mwah.
Listen.
Well, he was wrong about one thing.
Y'all want the devil's advocate?
Let's hear the devil's advocate.
Oh no.
Y'all can't say shit when we're all a part of this fandom, and we all lived through 2014 and 2016, where one of the biggest complaints was like, "Yo, man, Godzilla's not doing anything."
That was
and
not
as
my
I'm
complaint.
not your complaint, but it was a large portion of the fandom's complaint, to a point where
That's
it
a
got
large
put
amount
in
of fandoms,
several-
but don't make it my complaint.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah. I don't
boy. Okay.
associate
Oh,
with
cool,
that.
cool,
with
cool,
that, I
cool,
don't.
cool. We can like distance ourselves from them as much as we
Don't
want
point to
because
that pile of shit and tell
it
me it's mine.
it makes us all feel icky, but we're all sitting here on a fucking Godzilla podcast where we're talking about Godzilla, where the host is drawing Godzilla. We're all a part of that fandom. One of the largest complaints from our fandom wasn't, oh, I don't think the human story is written quite well. A lot of the complaints from the early Monsterverse was not enough monster punching monster.
I do not claim this point. I fought against
When,
this point for
king
years.
of the fucking monsters, one of the biggest complaints, even though there was a complaint made and it was a small one, like, hey, they tried to do more with the human story, it just wasn't good. A lot of the complaints from the fandom was like, you didn't focus on monster fight long enough. And what did they do in the next one? They focused on monster fight long enough and they said, man, we're going to flip it on the human story. The fans, the people who will see this shit 20 times over, want monster fight. Every time the fandom made a complaint about the Monsterverse, they overcorrected for the next one.
Yes, they did. They straight up did.
Every single time. So yeah, as a fandom, it's our fault. Now, if you want to distance yourself because we're not the stupid idiots in the fandom, that's fine. But as a fandom, bro, they overcorrect for our bullshit every time we talk. There's not enough monsters. I don't care about Brody. Cool, we're gonna give you 3 characters you really don't give a fuck about and tease you in King of the Monsters. Where's your monster fight? Cool, here's more monster fights. Well, you see, the human plot was actually barely there. Who is this, conspiracy theory guy? Why should I care about him? What about Madison? Now we're gonna get an overload of plot and exposition in the next one while they also try and balance monster fights. Like,
oh, I doubt they're gonna give us any plot or exposition.
Yeah,
I bet we'll get like
no. They're gonna overload us with it. So it's not gonna be good shit. It's gonna be, why is there a civilization in a hollow earth? Well, you see, and then like there's 5 minutes of your time. Oh look, a 20-minute monster fight. It's not going to be good storytelling. It's just going to be to the point where they can say, no, the information's there. And it's, if you paid attention to like Lex Friedman giving a 20-minute, dissertation about how the hollow earth works before Kong and Godzilla fight like, Bear Monkey 29.
Monkey.
Oh, speaking of which, I'm going to stop this right here. You can give your point. There was another quote that I found that you're all gonna find absolutely hilarious.
Go for it.
It's from the same person, by the way.
Oh no.
Yes.
Oh no, Lord, here we go.
Listening to Wingard genuinely hurts me.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't apologize for anything. Yep, there it is. I found it. Stop sharing. Present. And I'm not sure why X does it like this.
Are you able to share VLC? Because I have another Wingard quote.
Oh no, this is the Wingard quote. This is just something else that I found funny about storytelling. You can read that right there for you.
Oh yeah, that.
Yeah.
I don't even for me, because I'm not gonna lie, I do like a little bit of story analysis and whatnot, how you can tie stories to the times they're portrayed in. I think it's funny that this person saw a giant, balding, blinded ape creature and said, that represents the guy I support. Why are they making fun of my guy? And it's like,
no, he's not saying the guy he supports. He doesn't support that person at all.
Yeah, he's against Trump.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't read the username. Let me see that again.
Yeah, no, I'll show it to you again. And Sea Monster's back. I'll put you in Sea Monster in just 1 sec.
I just saw the comparison to Trump, and then I kind of clocked out because it's funny as shit.
Yeah, I need to read this again. So, okay, I didn't expect to read that.
Yeah, I know, right?
Hey, bro. What would Trump say about being Scar King?
Let me tell you, folks, we have a wonderful tribe down here. It's the hollow earth. It's still earth, but it's the greatest earth. Let me tell you, we have beautiful trees in the hollow earth, beautiful caves. Nobody has caves like we do in the hollow earth. We're going to build a wall so those ruffians and those migrants from the top earth can't come down here willy-nilly. We heard about the Kong situation. We heard about Godzilla blasting his way through our borders. And I gotta tell you, folks, we're not gonna stand for it. Scarred King 2024, make Hollow Earth monkey again.
Okay, so now there was enough on the stream of that Scar King looping, so now I can download that and try to edit that out just to lip sync to what you just said. So there we go. That's gonna take so much work, so much effort. It's gonna probably come out in like another month, but I will love that so much.
Humans are a menace. They're polluting, they're rioting. Some say they're even waging war, folks. Under my rule, there'll be no war. You'll all be slaves of the Scar King.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just add in something here now. Now,
Yeah.
now,
Let me add Sea Monster in real quick too. Welcome back, sir. How's your end going?
Oh, that was a deep sigh.
I heard.
Okay, it kind of seems like it's doing a little better, but there isn't
That's
a delay
better.
on
That's
your
a lot
end
better
at this point. So.
Oh, there is.
Okay, good.
Hey, Nate.
Yes, Brayden.
Are you able to stream VLC?
Am I able to stream what?
VLC.
VLC?
Yeah.
What is that?
Oh, you don't have that? Okay, never.
You're gonna have to. You're boomerang me right now, and I don't like it.
It's just a media like reader, to read like media files.
Oh, okay. I'll have to look at that later then.
Actually, yeah, dude, get it. It's really good. It's buggy too, but it reads a lot of stuff. So
you're gonna trash my computer after this, and I'm gonna never forgive you.
No, there's plenty you shouldn't forgive me for.
I know, but see, give me your thoughts on the video. I know you're coming in unfortunately a little late because of your delay, but I still want to hear your thoughts, my friend.
Yeah, the video was pretty bad. Well, first of all, he pretty much just says Robert J. Oppenheimer when it's actually J. Robert Oppenheimer. And second of all, he pretty much said that the fact that he just kind of gets the whole thing wrong with about how Godzilla, Gojira.
One sec, wait. I think there's still a delay going on. One sec.
It's not just a delay. My man's internet is crapping on him.
Okay, yeah, I think it's the internet then. I wasn't sure if that was just me or if that was someone else. One sec, see, are you on Wi-Fi or are you like plugged in? And I'll add Deepwater back in. Welcome back, Deepwater. See,
yes,
good sir.
I'm on Wi-Fi.
Oh, you're on Wi-Fi? See if you can get an Ethernet cable in, because I just realized that it's lagging a bunch on our side. It looks like that's probably the issues. Unfortunately. One sec. I'm gonna put you in. Wait, I'm gonna put you in the back. Text me in the private chat if the issue can work. If you can fix the issue.
Unfortunately, don't have.
Yeah, sorry, dude. We still can't hear you.
Yeah, I did not hear any of that. Pyro.
Well, damn, that's a shame.
Be booty.
That sucks.
How does Trump feel about bad Wi-Fi?
I don't know exactly. I hope he says something on the campaign trail.
Let me log back and it out.
Yeah,
because I don't have an Ethernet.
Oh, you don't have an Ethernet cable. Okay. I'd say the only thing that's probably going to help is if you're as close to your router as possible, or try to kick everyone else off your Wi-Fi if you can. But if not, that's probably still going to just keep impacting you, unfortunately.
Now, here's a question for all of you. To solve this question of whether or not Godzilla can work in a Western context, maybe we could take the route by going to Zim's proposal of maybe using the Gigantus name.
Oh no, when I did that whole video, that was less for like big creatives to use it and more just like a fun community thing. I think that ultimately, the even if you were gonna just make your own like new monster but separate from Godzilla, I think there'd still be that issue that remains there. That's present in Doctor's video, but I understand the sentiment at least.
Yeah. Okay, just a question.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's funny that we bring this up because
it was literally created by an American who doesn't want it to be Godzilla.
Well, not even that, but like, fuck the whole giant lizard. We got one, and it's Kong, like one of the biggest, one of the most well written aspects in the kaiju part when it comes to the Monsterverse is unironically Kong. We've had one Kong solo movie, and his movie. I have to check this to make sure real quick. Godzilla 2014 box office.
Are you asking that 2014 did worse or better than Skull Island?
Yeah.
I think it did. I think Skull Island didn't do as well, but I think it had a better critical reception, I believe.
Yeah,
I think all the films post 2014 did worse than 2014 because I have the box offices here.
Yeah, Godzilla 2014 was initially fairly well received, but I think Kong Skull Island was the better one of the two.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm looking at it right now on Wikipedia. And with box office, I'll reliably trust Wikipedia on this. Godzilla 2014, 529 million. Kong Skull Island, with the one source they have on that being of IMDb on the 2021 for 2021, 568 million with a budget to $20 million.
That was right because I don't think those were the right grosses.
That's pretty damn good.
It made more than 2014, but it turned less of a profit due to higher expenses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kong Skull Island cost more money, but like it made money. It made more money in theaters, but like it didn't turn a
good
profit.
money, but just like it actually had the highest marketing budget of the whole Monsterverse.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I'd argue that like that movie doing, just about equal to like Godzilla 2014. If I'm gonna like do it like that, it's just like, yeah, you have a stay, but you don't feel confident with it. You have a monster that is all your own. Kong. It's not King Kong. It's just Kong. You could do stuff with that. Again, we talked about last episode I was on. You don't use any of your original monsters that you've cooked up to bow to Godzilla. Like, they could do it. They're just really scared to.
Plus, it is technically the
scared.
Godzilla cinematic universe, so they don't want to get rid of.
It's not the Godzilla. No, it's not the Godzilla cinematic universe. It's called the fucking Monsterverse.
It's called the Monsterverse, but the moment they remove Godzilla from it, they're probably not going to continue with the Monsterverse. It may be called that, but in all but name.
The Monsterverse will be called the Monsterverse. It's just a matter of if they remove Godzilla, are they going to continue it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
My point is simply that like they have enough to continue it. They're scared.
Oh, sure,
they're scared to distance.
They will.
They're scared to distance themselves from Godzilla, but like if they were forced to get rid of Godzilla, I think they would attempt to continue.
I could see that.
I think they would attempt to continue if forced to remove themselves from Godzilla. If Toho were to say, we're taking Godzilla back for 25 years, you can't use them anymore. You can't use our monsters anymore. I think they would attempt to continue the Monsterverse with Kong and like the assorted creatures that they can create. I think they would. Right now, when they're not being forced to, I don't think they're willing to because,
Godzilla.
Yep.
I think they'd obviously try
True.
to. Do I think they'd be successful? Probably not. And given the track record of what we've seen so far, I don't think that I'd be optimistic if they even tried to.
See, that's the thing. I think if they did it with Kong and they took the same route where they don't marvelize their shit, where they feel the need to release every year, and they took time to actually write the character like they did in Skull Island, I think they could be successful. They could be really successful, because not only is Kong a sympathetic character and an actual character in Skull Island in the previous times we've seen him, he's one of the few monsters that other than Godzilla have that name, household name,
Recognition, yeah.
effect. Yeah. If what they're going for is name recognition, it's 2, maybe 3 if you want to include Gamera, but it's 2. It's Godzilla and King Kong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'll say if we're gonna say Gamera is probably a little bit lower than both Godzilla and Kong. It's Godzilla, Kong, then Gamera is a B tier kind of monster.
It's Godzilla and Kong on equal levels of these 2 immense towers, and then way down on a third one you have Gamera and maybe Ultraman. If you
Ultraman's in his own kind of world, especially with how well it's doing in Japan and how it really doesn't need the US to prop it up.
Yeah, exactly. So it's they could do a lot of interesting things with Kong, but it seems like now that they have the rights to Godzilla, man, they're really not pushing it.
I think also I would rather have a Kong story focused primarily on Kong, and I think one thing I'd say is I'm disappointed about the Skull Island game because that takes place in that DeVito Kong story, and that whole universe really does a lot with Kong. Yeah. And I wonder if that's gonna turn off people from being we can focus primarily on Kong, and then people are well, video game, look at how bad that was, and no one really talks about the video stuff outside of the video game now, unfortunately. But one person in chat said, question how do we send off Godzilla if we want to continue the Monsterverse without him?
Shoot him in the head, just kill him, disrespect on him, piss on him.
I'm not gonna say, go full, kill the Justice League Suicide Squad. I will say
I didn't even realize I was referencing that.
Bro,
God.
They kill spoilers. Heavy spoilers for this game.
Oh
Heavy spoilers for this game. If you don't want these spoilers now, speak.
One sec. Wait. Okay, there you go. Everyone, you have to wait a little bit.
Plug your ears.
Plug your ears. But in the new Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, they do just that. They kill the Justice League, and then with Flash, Boomerang pisses on his body.
And they shoot Batman.
Wait, who did he do that to? I didn't even hear about that. Flash?
Boomerang pisses on the Flash's body.
He whips it out and pees on him.
He whips it out, and the joke that is made when he whips it out is oh man, shouldn't you have any respect? Damn. Congratulations. They literally turn the Flash's joke and dead body into look how big Boomerang's dick is.
So I'm so happy that the moment I heard about the Conroy stuff a year ago, I stopped following anything to do with that game. And now I hate you for bringing that to my attention.
You're welcome. But
I hate you.
I think in all honesty, the way you send Godzilla out, if you're going...
Should we take the spoiler away? Although
take the spoiler.
I do want to say one more thing, Nate, if you don't know. Do you know the full thing about how Batman dies in that?
I know how Batman died in it because I got leaked last year. Yeah.
Batman dies and Harley Quinn gives a big old speech about all you ever do is hate people. All you ever do is make people the worst, while not having the introspective moment of realizing that she's Harley fucking Quinn, sidekick of the Joker, a person who has bombed orphanages and kidnapped puppies for the fun and jokes of it. And her giving this whole speech to Batman is just wow. Okay,
but as well as it's supposed to apparently be the Arkham Batman that we've been following.
Cool. It still doesn't make any sense.
Well, no, it doesn't make any sense, and that makes it even worse.
You could use any Batman that you want, But like we're heavy off topic now. To answer the question on how you send Godzilla off, it depends on if the Monsterverse is going to continue with the idea that they're getting Godzilla back at some point. Because in all honesty, you could just have Godzilla go into one of these deep ass hibernations, and every so mention you're like, hey, where's the big guy? Still sleeping. And that's the end of it. If they're going to send Godzilla off it without the expectation of getting him back, I think Braden is right without like, the memes about, just disrespecting him. I think the way you do it is like you give Godzilla his one big bad where he doesn't get a teammate and then he just kind of fucking dies.
Yeah, give the big guy a send off. I'm totally fine with Godzilla like killing off Godzilla ultimately. But like it just got to be done right. And I think it'd be better if they just killed him off instead of like trying to have your cake be like, oh, he's still sleeping. Especially because I do think that ultimately, you do limit yourself by like how big threats can be without being like, it kind of seems weird Godzilla hasn't woken up for this, but
I think for me, it's one of those things that I'll only say, like, if you're expecting Toho to say after, like, 5-10 years that you can use Godzilla again, put him to sleep so you don't have to worry about that continuity of how the fuck do we bring back Godzilla? Holy shit, we actually murdered him. Like, because if you murder Godzilla and then Toho says, yeah, you can use him now, you can bring him back. Well, now you're fucked because now you have to do a plot contrivance of like, here's a fully grown Godzilla.
They won't care.
Yeah,
they won't. They won't care, and that's the problem. I'm assuming the question was like, how do we do it good?
Yeah. Let me bring back some Monster. Wait. Let me see. See Monster. How's the Wi-Fi going?
Oh, it's a new profile.
Actually, I'm trying something a little different. I'm going to be using my my phone pretty much. So, yeah, like I don't really have like an Ethernet cable like available at right now. So
okay, but like
way better while
you're way better.
Yeah, no, right? It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, you got your limited time because you're on your phone, and we all know how phone Wi-Fi works.
Yeah.
What the fuck are your thoughts on the video?
Well, first of all, I'm not using phone Wi-Fi. I'm just using data, pretty much.
Let's make it quicker. I don't want to waste your data. I'm sorry.
That's what I mean when I say phone Wi-Fi. I'm a boomer. What are your thoughts on the fucking video?
Oh God, jeez, where do I begin? So, I mean, were you guys able to catch at least the part where I mentioned that he like got like at least got the year for the release of Oppenheimer wrong? Because like he said it was released. What?
Yeah, start completely from the beginning because we essentially did not hear any of what you had said previously.
Okay, so just a few little details, just some nitpicks here and there, pretty much. First of all, he says that Robert Oppenheimer was named Robert J. Oppenheimer when that is not the case. Second of all, he said that the movie was released in 2022 when it was actually 2023. I don't know how you could get that wrong. But I mean, so one of the things about this about the video that just kind of like it's just kind of like a fundamental like lack of like understanding of like how like it's not really a matter of like whether the movie was like made where it was made. It's all really just a matter of execution. It's like whether it was Japan or the US pretty much or any other country. It's just like if the movie's good, then it's good. But it's really what the movie tries to do, whether it's like meant to be serious, like Godzilla -1, or something a little more, like certainly more fast and loose, or not even necessarily that, but just kind of more lighter in terms of tone, like less heavy, pretty much. I mean, you could pretty much name one right off the head. I mean, it's very just kind of, it's a very like sort of like a mindset of like where he just has like this weird perspective of like what a Godzilla movie should be, but it's like so limiting. And I mean, like when really we should be kind of like be more focused on like breaking down, what each film pretty much to see what works and what doesn't work. I mean, like he says, like he pretty much names off like Godzilla 1954 and -1 is like the really good ones. When it's like it's baffling that he barely like I cannot believe that he glossed over the Millennium Era where it has like GMK, which is like one of the best entries in the series, and that one has monster battles, and perhaps one could say like, oh, that's like kind of that's like less serious and all that, but really no, like GMK, it was basically one of the inspirations for -1. Like you think he would have at least like given it that a mention, and especially the way he just kind of like brought down like the American cut of Godzilla 1954 when not only was Raymond Burr like all for like trying to keep the movie in the American cut as close to the tone of the original film as possible, but it's like the reason why the American cut of Godzilla 1954 was kind of because there wasn't really any way for the original Godzilla to be readily available for the U.S. I mean, you get what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And that's actually one of the things that I brought up in another group, saying that, whether people like it or not, Steve Martin actually wasn't that bad of an addition to the Godzilla series. I mean, sure, he doesn't have the gravitas that Dr. Serizawa had in his Sacrifice, but I think what Steve Martin brought, and this is a whole other tangent here, so sorry, guys, but I think what Steve Martin brought is showing how an American can really understand what Godzilla represents to the Japanese people and be an analog to convey the seriousness and the nuancedness, if that's even a word, to a Western audience. So that's what I see the value in that. And so for him to kind of do that, as you mentioned, Sea Monster, yeah, I'm kind of siding with you on that, because, and also this is a little bit of a nostalgia bias here, because Godzilla King of the Monsters was among the two of the very first Godzilla movies I ever saw. The other being Godzilla 2000.
Same for me. Although Godzilla 2000 wasn't really one of my first either. I mean, it was like one of the ones I've seen, earliest, pretty much. But the other one for me was like Godzilla versus Megalon, pretty much. But obviously, we're better off not really considering that the high watermark of the franchise, which I'm sure even Skipper would kind of agree with. But yeah, and obviously just dismissing the American Godzilla movies in general. It's just like the way he does, and in a way where even when he was like backhandedly complimenting like 2014, it's just kind of like where you're saying like, oh, America just thinks of nothing more but to like consider Godzilla to be like this superhero pretty much, or like basically Superman. But it's like really, it's like, well, he committed like, did he forget that he just like, I know he brings up that Legacy of Monsters kind of brings attention to like at least more boots on the ground sort of perspective of people dying on the Golden Gate Bridge, but it's like could he seriously say that the film didn't at least like imply that people died on the bridge? Just if like, let's just say if Monarch never even existed. And plus, and then he pretty much says like, oh, Godzilla is still considered the hero by the end of even King of the Monsters, where he's killed people. It's like, first of all, in the Battle of Boston, like that city was fully evacuated. Like the film even goes on to say as such. The only people that died there were military personnel who, were willing to give their lives to save the world, more or less, and help out Godzilla, defeating Ghidorah, and Emma Russell, who was more or less doing the same thing, pretty much. So you can't even say like civilians died at the end of KOTM. So.
And the other thing too is that he kind of mentioned how the 2014 Godzilla was kind of the Superman figure. It's obvious to me that he didn't watch it because Godzilla also killed a lot of people during the fight with the Mutos. Granted, it's not as obvious, but when you really do a lot of digging, it's implied that, yeah, a lot of people died in that fight. So how you can really call him Superman then? That's just my argument.
Yeah, and I mean, I would say like it's kind of in the perspective. Well, people pretty much still like people at the end was still kind of considered him like, maybe not obviously not a superhero, but at least kind of like someone that a being that's like on that was like kind of more or less what we would want to pretty much see win, because otherwise if Godzilla were to lose, the Mutos, their whole brood would basically just kind of wipe out life off the face of the earth just by basically just by their mere existence, if you will. It would just throw everything off whack. So Godzilla shouldn't even be in the Monsterverse, shouldn't even be thought of as like a a straight up hero, but just kind of like a how do I put this? Like he's meant to like he's like an enforcer pretty much of the natural order pretty much, and that's kind of like it's plain as day in the movies, like whether it's spelled out or even if we didn't have like Dr. Serizawa from saying it, it's at least like you get like a sense of like, oh, Godzilla's clearly like just meant to be maintain balance pretty much. Like we're just a part of the world that he's like protecting.
I wouldn't say that his point is rock solid, but
Lord, here we go.
What? Oh yeah, you knew this was coming.
Yeah, I'm not great off the cuff here, so I'm better like scripting stuff,
Yeah.
Oh, just I do think it is a flaw of 2014 in the sense of Godzilla is presented as a hero by the end of the movie. They try to make it questionable, but the way the movie like handles it, especially with the music, the way he's shot. Yes, there's death and destruction, but like it never is fully brought to light. The most we like, get is like evacuation camps or the people in the rubble. Yeah, the question mark hero of our city,
like King of the Monsters question mark.
Oh yeah, King of the Monsters.
King of the Monsters, hero of our city question mark. All the while the music just blasts. It's like
the music's telling you, here's your hero. Here's your like.
We watch our like the survivors look off in the rubble as Godzilla just walks away and he gives his victorious roar and then goes to sleep in the ocean. Bye bye.
Yeah, it should be horrifying, but it's treated as a victory.
Also, while walking to the ocean, he's probably just killing even more survivors.
Yeah, that too.
Waking up, like when we saw Godzilla last from that, like before that image, he had all these firefighters and people just crawling on him because they assumed he was dead, and now he just got up and walked away. What happened to those firefighters, Pete?
Yeah, well, I will say that
what happened to those firefighters?
Yeah, that's another flaw that I would say that Godzilla 2014 has, is that its writing isn't as solid as it could be. And I'm just coming at this right now. I'm a writer. I do a lot of creative writing, so I am kind of a bit of a stickler when it comes to this, and that's sort of one of the things that I would have done differently, in that where I would frame Godzilla as the hero, but then as we pan away,
oh no, what do we do?
Is someone else?
Oh no, Gareth took him. Oh no.
No.
What do we do? Gareth took you before you could finish.
They took him to the Gareth camp.
Oh no.
Oh, I'd gladly go there.
The camp of Edward.
It's where they show you very pretty paintings, but the stories are garbage.
They just show like reruns of Monster over and over again.
Have you seen Monsters?
I have not seen Monsters in years. And wasn't there another one, Dark Continent, right?
Yes, but
Gareth I have not seen
involved.
Dark. Oh, he wasn't?
No.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to watch those in like a double feature then.
Can I say something that like I don't know, maybe me and Brayden can argue about?
What?
I think honestly, I do like the fact that they kind of overlook all of like the destruction that Godzilla causes. I do like that, but like it's only if it's like I said in the last argument, it's only if I exclude like the rest of the Monsterverse and how they handle the characterization of Godzilla. Because a part of me really does like the idea of like, oh yeah, we're gonna celebrate when the obvious securing of the species, the human species safety, when that's secure, we will celebrate. Cool, we'll deal with the Godzilla problem another day. He saved our lives. Yeah, we'll clap it up and celebrate.
I would say it's kind of like an like just kind of like an at the moment thing to kind of see the thing that like people would kind of have see that if they obviously it would depend on whether or not they would be aware of that the move to if Godzilla pretty much even how do I put this if they pretty much were even aware that the Mutos are kind of ones that sort of instigate it, which obviously would really be
the only reason I like this, Brayden, before you come at me, before you penetrate me with all of with tremendous vigor, with the best vigor I know you have, the reason I like this is because of that one 5-minute segment opening in King of the Monsters, where we see Godzilla going on his triumphant walk, as we also watch this father look for his dead kid.
Sorry. Actually, that shot, it's actually still supposed to be still during the night. The Halo jumpers pretty much going down.
Really? Let me rewatch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fight's still going on.
It completely breaks continuity though, because there's
it
a
does.
bunch of
It is one of those unfortunate things that breaks continuity. Yeah.
He shouldn't be in that location.
He shouldn't look like that.
Yeah, he shouldn't look like that. They play the
what
sound
do you mean he
of
shouldn't be?
The
Godzilla
giving birth.
Yeah. The dorsal spines were the same as he was in 2014.
It's Dogoji.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no. I thought that scene was during the day. Wow. As you guys can see, Brayden specifically, I rewrote a lot of this to make more sense in my head than it actually does.
Well,
hey, it happens to all of us.
That's my fault. So I can't even give King of the Monsters that little bit. So erase everything I said about that. But no, I do like the idea of immediately after this disaster, watching one giant monster secure, at least 5 more minutes of humanity from the other giant monsters. Yeah, they kind of play him up as a hero. They could have done something a bit more interesting in future movies where they play with the idea yo, no, these things cause immense collateral damage. But unfortunately, from what I my memories are better than what they actually did. So,
right. So, all right. So I pretty much can understand, that. Especially after. Especially,
they got the design wrong and everything. I'm sorry. I'm just. I'm screen by screen watching it. I'm screen, but because the way I remembered it, they were showing Godzilla waking up, and he was walking off towards and then he gave his triumphant roar like they did in 2014.
Dude,
but it was
how long
an
has it been
upshot.
since you've seen that movie?
Bro, it's been a couple of years. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, I was planning to do a rewatch of it in the coming months, and I'd love to have you along for that, just to see you relive everything.
It's been a couple of years since I've watched King of the Monsters too.
My God.
I'm
I remember that movie almost from the back of my hand.
Maybe you guys are gonna take my Godzilla fan card, but unironically, the most rewatched movie I have is Kong Skull Island. That's one that not only do I just personally like out of the Monsterverse, but when friends come over and we do a little bit of drinking, that's a movie where I'm safe enough to be yeah, let's just throw on Kong Skull Island. And they're like, why? I'm like, yo, you got Loki, Samuel L. Jackson, and Brie Larson fighting fucking King Kong. Are you stupid? It doesn't, and then all of these actors portray their characters really fucking well.
And there's actual character.
Yeah, and then
there's an actual story.
And then I poison them into watching, the other movies with Kong in them, knowing full well that there's no characters and no story whatsoever, and it's never gonna be this good again. I know, I like that one Kong movie. I haven't watched King of the Monsters in a couple of years.
Yeah, we're gonna change that.
I might be watching again soon, and depending on when that Cottom debate actually can get scheduled, I may be watching it sooner than later.
Hey, if we're gonna rewatch it, let's schedule a date because like
I'll host a thing on the Discord probably for
Let's schedule it. Let's come together like it's a D&D group and make sure we're all there.
we all bring
would it be
snacks.
like would it be a just watch through it or like pause and talk?
Probably
No,
a
we
watch
got-
through it, depending, give or take.
Because if
I'm
we pause and talk,
arguing
it's taking a whole day.
I'm arguing for the pause and talk for the simple fact that we're Godzilla fans. Like, we're just gonna sit there and talk through the whole movie. There's gonna be instances where I'm just sitting there like, oh my god, that's not the right fucking scale pattern. Oh my god, there's gonna be shots where Braden's like, the composition here doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
I do say, where's the air quality for that shot? The sizing though. Like, we know this. It's gotta be a talk through.
Do any of you remember the shot of
here we go.
It's in Boston of Mothra ramming Rodan into the ground as Millie Bobby Brown's in the foreground. And it's
Yes,
just, like,
I remember that.
Fire everywhere. You could barely like tell what's going on. I once saw someone post that and they're like, "Oh, this movie has such beautiful cinematography." And I'm like, of all the shots to choose, like there's some nice shots in that movie. You choose
There's definitely plenty of shots in that movie that
there's
I
gorgeous
really
shots in that movie, but
See, for me, like whenever I hear like, oh, Godzilla King of the Monsters has beautiful cinematography, I'm always waiting for like one of the 7 shots that like you know they're talking about, because they're the shots that they actually
standoff.
The Serizawa scene, like the fucking submarine face off, like there are several shots you know they put just enough effort into. So people would say that, and it's like, cool, bring them up. When someone brings up one of like, and unfortunately I hate to say this because Rodan has the one shot where he looks good, and then like the rest of it is just a combination of what, and then what's going on there, and that's all you get from Rodan. So if you post anything other than that one Rodan shot, I'm just looking
at the Argo.
Yeah, it's where he's behind the Argo, and then like a substitute for that is like when he's looking into the plane, but even then I don't like that shot. But primarily where he's behind the Argo, and you just like that size difference is just like, oh, they're fucked. Like that
I want to say more commentary, because I do know that if I do get the debate, that's going to be good content, and there's going to be a lot to talk about if that happens.
Oh, I love that movie. It's my little dumpster fire.
But I am probably going to end it off of the night, because I just realized we hit midnight perfectly for me. So
that's cute.
I'm going to let
happens at midnight.
Adorable.
That's when the gremlins come out.
Exactly. Don't feed them.
I'm going to let
my clear liquor.
The 2 guests who haven't come on before do their shills, and then we'll end it off as we always do. So, since obviously you have the most issues, we'll let you show first. Tell us about yourself.
Oh, hello everyone. This has been your guest, the Sea Monster, and I have a YouTube channel where I talk about monster movies, not just Godzilla, but I also talk about Universal monsters like Frankenstein and Dracula. I have like at least a couple of those like under my belt. But I also even talk about other monster media such as Cloverfield, and pretty much one of my personal things that I'm kind of proud of is my 2-part series on Pacific Rim Uprising, where I especially part 1, where I just let's just say I just like tore the whole thing about the precursors playing in that movie like a new one. But in most recently my Godzilla versus Champagne video, where I kind of give a bit of a critique on James Rolfe's like little perspective on Godzilla being like a champagne, pretty much, where it's like it can only be made in Japan, just like how champagne can only be made in France. When there's a bit of issues there with that perspective, and I kind of go into that. It's not the most heavily edited video, to be fair, at least audio wise or visual wise, but hopefully y'all will find that very at least neat to listen to. I pretty much have some other projects going on the docket. One being a 3-parter on Godzilla versus King Ghidorah as an example, where I'm pretty much going to give that one like a little rewatch, pretty much, and just kind of like take some notes on it, and it'll be really interesting to see how that one plays out. But yeah, you want to? Yeah, there it is.
Awesome. And Deepwater Detective, tell us a bit about yourself. Give some shows where we can find you.
Well, I am the Deepwater Detective. I am on Zim's Discord channel. If you're on there, I'll be happy to chat whenever you like. I also am on DeviantArt by the name of Kelowna. That's KELONOWNA Zilla 2017. Kelowna is a place in Canada, which I thought is a cool name, so I put it there. And I basically just draw whatever I like, which it basically comes down to either Godzilla or original kaiju. And I'm also an author with Wild Hunt Press, so you can check out my stories in Duel of the Monsters, Volumes 1 and 2, and Jack Cole's The Experiment. And that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Pyro.
Yo, I'm the Pyro Tyrant. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram or YouTube at, Pontifex Monstrum. On YouTube, I'm starting to write some video essays because, man, I really want to get some of my critiques and my bits of writing advice on how to follow, what I call the turtle dove guide to writing characters and how that's supposed to go out. So, you can follow me there. I'm posting, these links in the chat. So, yeah, there's that. Thank you for having me, Zim. I do enjoy these panels because they are, way more lighthearted than what I'm used to.
What are you used to then?
Oh, bro, you don't know about the whole Twitch politics sphere? Y'all think y'all have y'all little bit of bullshit, bro.
Oh no, what's it called? If that's what you're thinking of, then yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
No. When I say I mean I've been in multiple debates with some of the big names, and it's
like who?
Yeah.
Destiny, Vosh.
Yes.
Really?
Oh.
You debated Vosh?
Yeah. Yeah, back when I used to do this guy named Prime Kai's panels, Vosh and Destiny would often hop in the waiting rooms and they'd get
You're gonna have to tell me this after the stream because this is interesting.
Yeah, this is
that's
lore.
This is
these
lore.
people. All I will say on stream is that I'm sorry if any of your followers listen to these people because these people are dumb as shit.
You're gonna this is lore for later.
This is lore for later. This is.
Bring it to chill so I can hear the rest of this story.
Wait, can I respond to one comment real quick?
Fill me with your lore.
Can I this newest run from Casaboo F29?
Yeah, go for it.
It's not that Vosh sees nothing wrong with possessing CP. It's that Vosh thinks that it's right and valid to equate the crime of child pornography with the normal mundane shit that we do every day, and he thinks that's a valid comparison to make because
I'm not gonna get political, Mom. One Vosh quote in.
What is this? What?
This is
that
Twitch poll is a whole other thing, and this is why I'm you know what?
Unironically, that's what I mean. In the full clip, and every time he defends it, he's oh, you see, I'm comparing the unethical practices within the trade of making cell phones or shirts where you do have some really horrible shit happening to children to the unequivocal evil of child porn, where unlike cell phones or unlike t-shirts, there is no good way to make child porn. You cannot make that in a good. Vosh's argument is that.
What are you saying?
I'm saying broken.
Listen, I'm saying Vosh's argument.
Yeah,
exactly. I'm sorry, but that's his argument. That is his argument. That hey, making cell phones and CP are equal because they both harm children. There
Nate,
are
is this gonna take down your stream?
This is gonna kill me.
YouTube's not gonna like this, bro.
I think I see the nuke coming.
Let me just say this much.
I'm sorry. I went too much. We should have ended it 5 minutes ago. I'm sorry,
I
chat.
get my stream nuked, Pyro. I will kill you.
You know what? See you later.
See you later.
God.
I'm not even gonna show myself for this. There you go. That's where you can find me. This is why I have no politics in my Discord. Y'all have a good night.
But Godzilla's always